Tuesday, May 21st, 2019 special call meeting to order at 5:01 p.m. Roll call, Madam
I don't hear very well.
Councilwoman Bailey,
Are we there?
Councilman Guzman,
Yes, and I can't hear as well, so
Councilman Guzman, Councilman Maldonado,
I'm here, but I can barely hear you. Hello?
hello, Councilman Ross.
Councilman Maldonado, can you hear me?
Yes, I
Yeah, I
can.
can hear you, but I don't hear them.
Councilwoman Fairclough, Vice Mayor Burgess,
Here.
Mayor Shelley.
Here. So on the phone, we have Councilman Maldonado and Councilman Guzman, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
Mayor.
Can Councilman Guzman, Councilman Maldonado, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you better now.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
same
think
here.
we
I
have
was
to make
having
sure the
some
microphones
difficulty
are
at
turned
first.
on, otherwise you won't be able to hear.
Okay,
The
I
first
can.
order of
Thank you.
business is car number 2649, Homestead Miami Speedway Ultra Festival. If you staff want to give a brief introduction to this item.
Mayor, the Homestead Miami Speedway is requesting authorization for additional hours of operation until 2 a.m.
Okay, thank you. And this item was placed on a special call. Typically, I'm not a big fan of special calls myself, especially on items that have, of significant importance to the community. But in this particular case, the reason this one was set up as a special call was because the city of Miami Beach has something scheduled tomorrow on the same subject matter as far as Ultra and possibly trying to entice or bring them into the community. There was also a meeting with the city of Miami today. They had a sunshine meeting between, I think, 4 out of the 5 commissioners, in which those commissioners also had a discussion about maybe trying to bring Ultra back there to their community, or at least have discussions with them to bring Ultra back. So ultimately, to make sure that whatever this council decides is of the council's deciding and not necessarily being dictated by any other community, we've called a special call to have this discussion. And so that's kind of the groundwork for why we have it in a special call format. And then with my colleagues' permission, do you want to ask staff questions at this point, or would you like to hear from Homestead Miami Speedway as far as a presentation on what they're proposing that we decide tonight? Any preference? Speedway as well? Okay, so I'd like to invite Homestead Miami Speedway to come up and make a presentation on what their request is. And please state your name and address for the record.
Good afternoon. My name is Matthew Beach. I'm the president of Homestead Miami Speedway, located at 1 Speedway Boulevard here in Homestead. Mr. Mayor, honorable members of council, thank you for today's special call. I know that it is, as you mentioned, Mr. Mayor, something that's unusual, but something that's very relevant to us and very important to us. We, as a sports venue, like you've seen across really the world, we're all looking for ways to drive incremental revenue. Just here locally, if you look at Hard Rock Stadium, recently added a tennis facility to capture the Open that used to be out in Key Biscayne. They obviously were built for football. Now they're hosting tennis. They're hosting performance driving events in their parking lots. They obviously host concerts and festivals. It's what we do. Same holds true for Marlins Park, baseball stadium that holds football games on occasion. The reason they're doing that is to drive incremental revenue and bring a new audience to the venue, new audience to the community. And really, we're trying to do the same thing. This is actually something we've been doing for about 7 or 8 years. Those of you that have lived here a long time probably would recognize that the types of activities we host at the track has changed in that time. We used to be centered squarely on the racing surface. Now you're seeing things like 5Ks, triathlons, Tough Mudders. We do military training exercises, runs the gamut. And really what we found is we have a finite inventory. We have one racetrack, and we have a certain number of daylight hours in the day. Because of that, we're looking to other parts of the property to try to leverage that, to drive revenue, drive economic impact, to bring different people down to the venue in this community. One area that we've identified as a possible opportunity is music festivals. It goes hand in hand with what we do. Large-scale events, we know how to move people around. We know how to manage traffic. We know how to keep people safe. And we do this at other venues. Our track in Daytona has hosted multiple country music festivals on a multi-day basis. Our track in California hosts an electronic music festival. It's a weekend event that's been there for several years. Our track in Michigan hosts a 3-day country music festival. And so as the leader of this facility, my charge to Al and the team is to find more of those kinds of events. Whether it's the one that's been talked about in the media recently or not, really doesn't matter to me. What we need is a framework with our partner, the city, so we can have speed to market. Everything you just identified a moment ago, Miami Beach, the city of Miami, there's even a Hialeah discussion out there. This is a competitive business. Sometimes these deals are done on a long arc of time. Sometimes they're done on an opportunistic, as it falls in your lap basis. And because of that, speed to market is so important. And so what I'd like to do is bring Al up to talk a little bit about some of the conversations I know he's had with different constituents, the manager, as well as some of the facts and figures that the event that's currently in front of us provided, so we can make a smart decision on how we move forward. So Al?
Name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council, city staff, Councilman Maldonado and Councilman Guzman on the telephone. My name is Al Garcia, and the business address is 1 Speedway Boulevard, Homestead, Florida. So thank you for your time. I'd like to give special thanks to the manager, the city manager, George Goretzis, has made himself available, and he and I have been working very diligently on this event. He has been peeling back the onion, as they say, and the more facts that are uncovered, the more questions he asks, and he's represented the city very, very well, and making sure that this is a viable event. And the utmost importance to the manager is to secure as much economic benefit for the city and to protect and minimize the impact on the community as it relates to traffic, noise, public safety. To that end, his biggest concern, or his biggest talking point to me was public safety. And I'll speak to that a little bit later. The other issue that he really wanted to get his arms around was the noise. Obviously, there's been some discussion about how much noise is generated at one of these EDM concerts that we're talking about currently, but music festivals in general. So to that end, we've discussed EDM shows, country music festivals, classic rock festivals, jazz festivals. So we have run the gamut as it relates to the sound levels produced at these different types of events. So as you well know, the manager is in Las Vegas, and I'm not sure if Councilmen Maldonado and Guzman were able to go, but I do know the manager attended an electric dance music festival at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. And I'm sure he'll be reporting back, if he has not already reported back, what he saw. And I think it was largely positive. We have some folks at the airport, and they're saying the number of travelers, international and national, that went through Miami International Airport on the way to Las Vegas for this EDM show was significant. So I think also I'd like to note that we have gotten letters of support from the county, from Commissioner Moss in particular. We've also got a letter that I think is on the dais from the Hotel Association of Greater Miami and South Florida. I think the PBA is also in support. Whether they've inked a letter or not, I don't know, but I was talking at length to the PBA about this opportunity, and they are not parochial. They're not advocating Homestead, but they are adamant that they want the event to stay in Miami-Dade County, and they, for the record, think that this is probably the best location for this event. So those are the letters of support. This event, it's the first year that it would be hosted here in the city. They're guesstimating about 50,000 people per day over 3 days, so a grand total of about 150,000 unique and new visitors to our community, and that they yield a tick over $100 million worth of economic impact each and every year that they operate. Go ahead. So that's it. So When we start talking about the noise that is generated, we took decibel readings from some of the folks that we have out at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, and at the stage, they were registering 115 decibel. To give you some kind of a sense of what that is, a jet aircraft taking off from about 100 feet away is about 130 decibel. So it's less than what a jet taking off on a runway generates. We had people monitoring the sound in Vegas, and 3 or 4 blocks away, it was barely audible. So, you know, we've talked to the folks from Ultra, and although they don't have a site plan, we don't have a lot of details because we don't have a deal with them. But conceptually, one of the things that they talked about was aiming all the speakers to the southeast, towards Turkey Point, or perhaps dead east, out towards the wetlands that are east of the track, to minimize the impact to the residents that are to our west and to our northwest. So that's to address the potential for noise disruption, or noise pollution rather. The life safety, they have on the police side, which is pretty benign when you're hosting 150,000 people, they had I think 35 arrests. About half of them were misdemeanors. So the City of Miami Police, which I reached out to, didn't report any significant crimes. I think that's the same you'll find from the manager's research that you did out in talking to the Las Vegas Police Department. I know there's been talk about fire rescue and the number of calls and the number of hospital beds and how we would do that. So we've done a lot of work on that as well. They were averaging about 100 calls a day or so, and I think 55% of those calls are triage, treatment, and then release, so they can go back. Band-aids, slip and falls, bumps and bruises, that kind of thing. Probably 45% of those calls were transported off property, and of those, I think half or maybe 60% were BLS, basic life support, and then the other percentage was advanced life support, a little bit more serious. So we would, as we do for the major events down here, each hospital has a capabilities chart, and so if it's serious trauma, they would go to Jackson South, more than likely via air rescue. If it was something a little bit less serious, it would go to Homestead Hospital, provided that they could deal with whatever injuries may occur or illnesses. Or the third location would be Baptist's main campus on Kendall Drive. And those are the same protocols we use at the NASCAR weekends when we have close to 100,000 people on property on Sunday alone. So we would have the staging for the ambulances that transport people off campus, so we don't deplete our resources that are on campus for this type of event. So we'd have extrication teams that would take somebody that is overcome by heat or whatever out of the crowd, take them to these transport areas. At that point in time, they could be triaged and treated and released or transported. So we have a very methodical plan. Our director of emergency services retired as the #2 person for Miami-Dade Fire Rescue about 3 years ago. He's been on part of our team for the last 3 or 4 years, and certainly very, very capable, and has done this type of planning for major events all over the world. So in addition, the last thing I'd like to talk about is the opportunities. There's maintenance of traffic, and that's what we do. I personally spend more time working on getting people in and getting people out of the speedway for the major events. And for a NASCAR race, we park somewhere between 25 and 30,000 automobiles, and we work with the Turnpike Authority, with the Highway Patrol, and more than anybody with Chief Roll's team, and we're very efficient moving cars in and moving cars out. There's a lot of resources, a lot of planning that goes into this, but I think that's one of our core competencies. I also have been told that camping would be a large part of this event, so that would also minimize the number of people coming and going to the event on a daily basis. Load-in would be on a Thursday. They'd load in and camp. You know, who knows? 40% of the guests would probably stay on property all 3 days, so they'd load in Thursday and then depart Sunday or Monday, more than likely. And then we need support from the city, from our partners in solid waste and public works, and it's not only the support, but it's opportunities because they work overtime and they do a tremendous service from the electric utility folks, solid waste, roads, parks, and everybody else. So That's where we're at as far as the scope and the scale and the planning that's gone into this event. We don't have a deal with any promoter yet or any concert in itself. Once that happens, our contracts would call for regular meetings with the city staff, with George Gretz's professional staff, with certainly police and all the other stakeholders, and we have emergency action plans, and we deal with that because we understand that as a NASCAR race, this would have a regional impact potentially. So we have to make sure that we're not just protected and prepared in the city limits, but there's a Turkey Point element and others that we would certainly address and include in our planning. So, appreciate the time. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. That concludes the presentation. I do have, before I open it up to my colleagues to ask some questions back and forth, I do want to make sure we kind of narrow the issues or make sure that we focus our debate and discussion on exactly what's before us. And so one question I do have for the Speedway, I know that in the request to us, both in the email form and in the formal letter, at this point, it looks like it's a request to modify a blanket request to 2 a.m. going forward through the duration of the contract. And I know I've asked the question to the city attorney, and the city attorney has kind of opined that potentially would be considered opening up or requiring an amendment to our existing contract. And so I want to find out, one, have the city attorney publicly make that opinion, and then two, make sure I understand, is that the request that the track is asking for, Homestead Miami Speedway is asking for? And if so, then we can have discussion on that issue.
Well, to answer your first question, no, we're not interested in modifying the lease or opening up the lease agreement. We're simply asking that you direct the manager to give us the opportunity to operate per 2 a.m. As in the lease, it calls for the manager at his sole discretion could extend our operating hours. And so we're asking that the council instruct the manager to do as he is entitled to do per the lease agreement to extend the operating hours.
And is that for all events or just for the Ultra event that we're talking about, the one that's before? And the reason, and I don't mean to, I just want to make sure as we debate this, because I know a lot of this discussion is going to start to veer off into Ultra, I believe. We're going to start talking about very specifics as it relates to maybe the one event that we know is before us. And so to make sure that we don't spend a lot of time talking about any issue that's not relevant, I just want to make sure I know exactly what the request is.
Well, it's not limited to Ultra. We do not have a deal with Ultra. I envision that we would market ourselves, and I see the potential for having 2 or 3 of these type of music festivals on a yearly basis. Once we establish ourselves as a viable music festival location, then the hope is to attract several others. So no, it's not, and we, as a good partner, we'd work with you on that request. Are we saying we're going to operate till 2 a.m. 365 days a year for any event, anytime? Certainly not. And that's not the intent. And we have a wonderful relationship and communication with the staff. So we would certainly come back to the manager, and if nothing else, give them the heads up. Hey, we're permissible to do this, but this is what we're thinking. And so then we would certainly keep everybody informed.
All right. So the request would then be the discretion by the manager under the terms of the existing contract for a period of, not a specific event of Ultra, but for multiple events or an open-ended number of events moving forward, or?
I think it'd be reasonable to expect 2, 3 music events. Each one would be a duration of 3 or 4 days.
Okay. I'm open up my colleagues first, and then if the attorney has any, what I want to make sure is that okay? I mean, would that be considered opening up the contract as well, or we can debate that discussion and have that debate or talk about that issue?
I want to be clear about exactly what the contract says, so I'm just going to read the 2 pertinent lines. It says that the permitted hours of operation for the project are Monday through Sunday from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. Additional hours may be permitted on a case-by-case basis by the city manager in his sole discretion. In my view, asking, a case-by-case would be really, I would interpret that as event by event. I know we're speaking about Ultra now. If you're okay with that, I think that's fine. There's a mechanism for them to come back for future events without opening up the contract as well as those are proposed. But leaving it just completely vague as to what that is, I don't think sticks with the case-by-case basis and would necessitate an amendment to the contract, as I've relayed to their counsel.
All right, so and that's why I just want to make sure we kind of get these legal arguments out of the way so then we can have the basic discussion about the other issues. So you're opining then that a general request an open-ended request for a non-specific number of events or not a specific event, in this case Ultra, would then still require an opening up of the contract. Is that okay? And we can just open it. I just want to have that, and then I'll open it with my
I'm sorry,
colleagues.
I didn't get that. So say that again?
So I think that in this case, I know we're speaking about broadly, but we're considering Ultra for the purposes of tonight's discussion. So I think Ultra is an event, and that's a case-by-case basis, and so they can give the manager direction, and it's his discretion, but they're seeking direction, the manager's seeking direction tonight for permission to allow Ultra to operate from 2 a.m., and I think this is an event,
So
that's
it's a
a case.
case-by-case basis.
Case-by-case
We're
basis.
talking about the potential of hosting
But,
this specific
yes,
event.
but if you were to, say 2 a.m. in perpetuity for 5 events, well, that's ambiguous. It's not really a case-by-case basis, and I think that's a broader request that will necessitate an amendment to the contract.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you for clearing that up and for your interpretation. And yes, we would modify our request to be specific to this event, which would be in the first quarter of 2020.
Yeah, not only that specific, but just, I just wanted to make sure we didn't get into other debates, and next thing you know, the big issue hadn't been discussed, or we start spending a lot of time. So with that, any questions or comments from my colleagues?
Okay, before we move forward, this is Elvis Maldonado, Councilman. I would just ask clear into the microphones. I'm having a hard time hearing anything.
We're not hearing you very well either. Can you repeat that? What your question is, or what your issue is?
I'm just asking that everyone would speak clear into the microphone because I am having a hard time hearing everyone speak.
Okay. Vice Mayor Burgess, question or comment?
Thank you. Yes. To Mr. Garcia, safety is a large concern, I think, of the people who have never experienced or been to one of these concerts. And there's a lot of things written out there that these types of things happen and stuff. Can you share to probably put some of the people at ease, or at least let them understand the amount of security and what has all gone on? I mean, through my discussions with Colonel Kennedy, who unfortunately is not here tonight, I'm not able to answer questions, and I'm not sure if anybody else is able to take his place and answer questions, but he has shared with me that police officers work the gates. You must be 18 years old to enter. That they have an unbelievable amount of officers on premise to keep things under control. That in the past, Ultra has built a wall, I think, that's erected around the perimeter of their venue to keep people from being able to sneak in, to rush the place and create havoc on the people that are enjoying the show. And I know that he shared with me that they work the parking lot to make sure that people are not gathering out there in large numbers or numbers at all, and those types of things. And I was just wondering if you had any other things that you might be able to relay on the safety issue. That is a big concern of some of the constituents.
That's a great question, and I'm glad you asked. It's premature to get into the details because we don't have a site plan yet and we don't have a deal yet, so we haven't gotten into the access control, the crowd control aspect of this event. But what I can tell you is that we have a high standard, and we're your partner, and we certainly take our lead from Chief Roll and his team, and I'm sure that we will be talking because Ultra folks ultimately insure this event, and we want to make sure that it's a safe event. And they had some issues 7 or 8 years ago, but I think their track record the last couple of years has been a very safe environment. When anytime you get that large number of people together, you're going to have some arrests for misdemeanors and things of that nature, but I don't think there's been any violence or any kind of rushing the gates or anything like that. We would work with the law enforcement professionals. I believe that there's been several folks that are with Homestead Police Department that have been to the Ultra event, have worked those large-scale events, whether it be the Hip Hop Festival on South Beach or the Ultra events, and they have a lot of experience. And we would certainly work hand in hand with them and ultimately defer to the professionals in the law enforcement realm and chief role staff to make sure that we do everything humanly possible to make it a safe event.
And Chief, do you have anybody or yourself that would like to add anything to that, to the questions or to the concerns and the issues that I raised?
Councilman Burgess, yes, I do. I have Major Clark, I have Captain DeJohn, I have Captain Yanko, and I have Captain Wright. Those guys have worked those events, and quite naturally, when they work those events, they come back and they share it with me. But to articulate it better than I can, I can have either one of you guys speak about the safety and based on what happened up there. And also, we were able to contact Las Vegas Police Department and get the manager and some of the council people a tour up there because of the relationship we have with other departments. And they shared some information with us as well, how the event was going. He talked about the crime and so forth and so on. But just to keep this rolling, Captain DeJohn.
Mayor, Council? Is there anything specific?
Well, I was just wondering what's your view, the safety and the people that have never experienced the Ultra Festival. It seems to be there may be some misconceptions or some realities depending on, what article you read or whatever. And I was just wondering if you could relay what your basic thought was of the event, having worked it as an officer, and the safety precautions that are maybe put in place to make sure that people behave and that type of stuff.
As in any large-scale event, obviously public safety is paramount. We would definitely do this just like we would work the track. We have a large amount of people that are coming in, that are staying, that are being part of the community for that brief period of time. So we have all these things to consider: the traffic, the people on site, and their safety and well-being. We plan these things out well in advance with the track. We do things like tabletop exercises. It's not something that's just necessarily done on a whim. We begin preparation way in advance in order to make sure that we can provide proper security for everyone involved. These events, like this last music event, a lot of things get over dramatized in the media, and what we're seeing is that it's not necessarily the case. There's a lot of good people that go to these events. They have a good time, very courteous, no real problems to speak of. But we're always going to be prepared for anything in the future that may or may not happen. We have to be prepared, and we will.
Thank you. Mr. Garcia, you spoke of not having a site plan, and I know that our manager visited, as you referenced also, and most of us have received a brief synopsis of his visit to the Las Vegas Motor Speedway to I guess, for lack of a better term, a sister event to this, even though it's a different company, a mirror event, whatever you want to call it. And he noticed that the interior of their racetrack was used and all that. Is that something that's even? And he felt that helped with the noise levels and things like that. Is that something that could possibly be done at Homestead, or is our infield area with the lake and all the other things that we have too small of an area for what size crowd and what they predict? Is just putting things out there as what he saw as a positive. And as we move forward, just something like that. So I was just wondering if that's not even in the realm of reality, or if it is a possibility as we move to help with possible sounds and things, noise and things like that.
Now, that's a good question. Right now, everything's on the table. We have not determined where exactly it would be. They have obviously Google images of the track, and they're putting together several different options for us to consider. So it is a possibility, yes, and we've also have site plans to show it being in the western parking lots. again, facing towards the track itself and towards the east. So we've seen both different plans, but we have not gotten there.
Thank you. You spoke of, well, if I did the numbers right, 50,000 people and 40% of them camped and all that, it'd come out to about 20,000 people. Can you share with us how many average campers you might experience during a NASCAR weekend, just so that those, including myself, that would understand what those masses would be? Do you guys have any kind of numbers that relate to how many campers you put out there over a NASCAR weekend?
Yeah, in the campground on the south side off of Palm Drive, we park roughly 1,500 RVs, maybe 2,000 RVs, and at 4 persons per, we have anywhere from 6,000 to 8,000 people living on property for the duration. Now, for NASCAR, we open the campground on Wednesday before the race, and they stay till Monday after the race. So about 5-6 days, we have anywhere from 5,000 to 8,000 people living on property.
Okay. And I'll wait and let other people ask questions more, so I'll hold for now. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Garcia and staff.
Councilwoman Bailey.
Mayor. Speaking of safety, could you talk a little bit with a comparison to the most recent races as far as any medical transports or arrests, so we can see a little bit of a comparison between the ultra figures? Off the top of your head?
Off the top of my head, I can tell you, it's a little bit different model, because for the NASCAR races, we have 4 care centers that are on property. So they're essentially mini hospitals that we operate on property. Over a NASCAR race weekend, you know, when it's extremely hot, we'll see up to 600 patients over 3 days. Last year was a little bit more benign. I think we saw like 180, maybe 200 patients in those care centers. And we transported the folks. Again, we have a capabilities chart. So when the first responders arrive, if they're on this side of the ledger, they bring them to us. And we have care centers that offer advanced life support, and they're staffed with trauma doctors and trauma nurses. More than anything, it's slip and falls. They can give stitches. But if it's abdominal pains and different ailments, they'll be immediately transported to a hospital, and they'll never see the inside of our care centers. So I think off the top of my head, we transported like 26 or 28 people over the 3 days of NASCAR last year.
And any arrests?
I'd have to defer to the chief, but I don't think we had any arrests last year at the NASCAR race.
Baby, I got 2 other people. Can I speak right quick? Because City of Miami, we have a mutual aid with most of the departments throughout the county. The City of Miami specifically asked for Homestead to assist them with the Ultra Fest this year, and I allowed the guys to go. And 2 of the guys that I sent, you know, Captain was Colonel Kennedy, and I also sent Captain Wright, but the Major Clark was there as well. So I wanted them to give you all a little bit of insight to let you know how things went. You know, it's good to have somebody there that can come back and tell you exactly what's taking place, opposed to, you know, you're trying to get it secondhand. So give me a few minutes. I have Captain Wright say a few words, and then I have Major Clark say a few words.
Clarification real quick. Was the question about the arrest at the Homestead Miami Speedway race or Ultra? Or you want to?
If you want to speak a little more about it, this is all just trying to get some
We'll
more
speak about
detail
both
on
of them.
safety.
We'll speak about both of them because, you know, we have a excellent communication and I should say a system working with the track. We have no problem with them, but we didn't have any arrests that I know of last year. And as far as the other issue, you know, the medical issue, a lot of it came from heat exhaustion, which is typical. That's what happened at the Ultra. But anyway, let Captain Wright come up.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I did have the pleasure of working Ultra this year in March. I worked Friday and Saturday out of the 3 days it was. I must say that out of the 2 days that I did work, it wasn't what I expected. And what I mean by that is it was actually a pleasure. The people at the event were no issue at all, at least where I was at my post. As far as security, the security was phenomenal because there were multiple officers at each post. I was assigned to 2 different posts each day, at the ticket booth and inside the arena itself. So there were multiple officers on the inside, multiple officers on the outside. As far as security barriers, there were fences all around each stage, around the whole event itself, to prevent people from going in and coming back over. So I must say it was a well-planned event as far as operation goes. And like I said, I really didn't have any issues at all.
You know, I just got the phone with Chief Press from Key Biscayne, and we spoke a little bit about it. And one of the things he was just saying that Homestead is different because we got so many ways to get in and get out. With them, they had one way in, one way out. That was the causeway. He just said he wish you all wish us luck if we decide to go that way. He thought it was a good economic, tool for the city. My thing with him, it's a council, a positive decision, not ours. Whatever the city decides to do, we make sure that security is taken care of. That's where we kind of left it. But I want Major Clark to say a few words because he was involved in it as well. Thanks, Captain Brian.
Councilwoman, you had asked about the number of arrests. Last year at Ultra, there was 37 people arrested for the 3 days in the festival. And everything, they ranged, as I think Mr. Garcia discussed, from, it was mostly misdemeanor type things. So I've worked the event for about 5 years. Crowds typically friendly, folks that are not looking to cause a lot of trouble. Of course, anytime you have 50,000 people at a venue, there's situations that arise. As Mr. Garcia said, I believe they had about 100 fire rescue calls a day, maybe 30 transports. So 100 people transported. We've had that happen here, with heat exhaustion calls ourselves at our track on various occasions. So it's, in terms of medical calls and calls for police service, it's an event that can be easily managed with the proper security, whatever. NASCAR, we have something like 220 police officers on the busiest day. The Ultra TO typically was downtown, was 320 officers. I think this year they had 420 because they added the component of trying to get the people off the causeway. Friday night was an issue because of the traffic leaving the causeway. There were some unpredicted circumstances getting the buses in and turned around. They pretty well solved it by Friday and Saturday. But typically it's an event that doesn't seem to have a lot of out of control things going on. There's not a lot of violence. Just seems like, the type of things that you would have when you gather 50,000 people. Twisted ankles, somebody's cut, somebody gets upset, somebody over imbibes, and you have to deal with those calls, which are probably very small on a percentage basis.
I really appreciate you sharing your experiences. I actually spoke to another officer who's not here, and he had the same thing to say, that he was pleasantly surprised that it really felt like a culture of, peace, love, very clean, people picking up after themselves and each other. So that was very good to hear. I do think that there are a lot of misconceptions. We always hear the bad parts, and personally, I would love to see more music festivals coming further down south. I think it's something that's great for our area. I think the theater has been doing a great job in getting some acts down, but if we could put ourselves on the map with something as big as this, I think that opens up a lot of doors as well. Thank you.
Councilman Roth.
Thank you, Mayor. I volunteered out at the track for many years, and I'm very confident on what they do out there when it comes to public safety. I think I was out there one year, and it was like really, really hot in November, and we had people heat stroking out, and they were right on top of it out there. And not only that, our police department has been working these events for 18 years, so I'm very confident that they can handle that part of it. There's still a lot of questions that have to be answered, and I know it's not around this topic. We're just talking about extending the hours of operations out at the track for now. They don't have a deal yet with Ultra, but I would like to reserve some time for after comments, and I'd like to hear what the people in the audience have to say, and maybe there's some answers to some of the questions that they have, and then we can maybe come back and say some other things after, so we can address some of those items too. I reserve my time. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Maldonado, Councilman Guzman, would you guys like to
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, Councilman Maldonado. You've got the floor.
Thank you. I'm hearing some of my echoes, so I'll try to work around that. Let me start by saying that I am a true fan of Ultra. I recall when a few years back, my daughters asked to attend, and they were the ages of 15 and 13, and it was obvious that they couldn't attend. But what I did as a fan, I streamed it live screen television, turned up my home theater speakers. I bought some lights from my brother-in-law that's a DJ, and we had Ultra at home. Great experience, great time. Love the music. I had, let me tell you, I'm hearing my echo, and it's really difficult to kind of talk over it. Jerry, see if you guys could do something real quick. So I'll try to talk about my experience. I was able to attend with the city manager the EDM event, and then I was able to return to it the next day. So I'll share my experiences from both days. The first day that we went, we were met with the police officer from the Las Vegas that was in charge of running the event. His love, as he said, and his passion was to basically do what he's doing now, which is, and it's most likely going to do, it's what he's going to do when he retires, which is help organizations like EDM to have events. And, you know, his number one thing is just what he said was to make sure that everyone would stay in the event. And let me tell you that as he first took, he kind of took us and talked to us about, you know, how they do everything, how they prepare, and you know, they've been doing this for quite a few years already, and with every year they've gotten better. And as he spoke to us outside of the event and then drove us into the event, he took us over to, you know, the rooftop. And as I walked upstairs and I finally hit the point where I could see down, it was really difficult for me to find words and to process what I was looking at. It was a massive event. I believe he says it was over 105,000 attendees. Something futuristic and something out of a movie is what I was able to see from a distance. And like I said, it was really hard to set up, you know, take in. George, or the city manager, and myself, we asked a lot of questions, and the city manager was very, you know, I mean, he really kept touching on the importance of the safety of drugs and crime. And, you know, he said, let's just be frank about this. And it's an unfortunate thing, but drugs are a part of this event. And so it's a relationship that they have with the event, and it's something that's happened, and this is something that happened within it, and they deal with it accordingly. You know, he did say it is a peaceful event for the most part, but the only issues that they really deal with is the drugs. And so the arrests for my colleagues who are asking about that are basically arrests of individuals who are selling drugs at the event. And if you find someone, you know, doing it in front of them, like smoking pot, or is the most case, and they deal with that accordingly. But they say it's like, listen, this is part of it. It's like what happens in a club normally, it's times an event like this. And so his concern it was that his officers were able to really focus on finding those individuals that were selling it, and not so much the small things that they're doing. Again, it's part of the event, unfortunately. I can tell you that they had a MASH-style hospital set up at the event. Again, this was an impressive event. I don't think that anyone can really, I honestly don't think you guys could really imagine how big this event is. Maybe the current Ultra is not the size of this, but I think in this venue, it would be an event that could easily go over 100,000. And, again, very impressive. They did have the MASH-style hospital. They had doctors in place. They even had equipment so as where they could place individuals in ice water with ice packs in case that a lot of times these drugs that they do, they spoke about how, they really needed to bring the temperature down of individuals in order to save them. And so they had stations ready to place individuals to bring down their temperatures. Their temperatures would rise over 105 degrees. And so it's obviously important for them to bring that down. They did also have gels on site. From my observation, they appear to be large shipping containers converted into gels. And there were individuals that were arrested, were processed at the event in the facility, and then eventually there was a transportation bus there, and they would bus them out accordingly. That's something that I, kind of saw there. And so again, pretty impressive. Traffic, I think, in my opinion, and observing all this, I think traffic would be the number one issue that we as Homestead and our residents would be dealing with. The advantage that they had over at the EDM here in Las Vegas was that their racetrack has no residential units around them. It abuts an Air Force base, and there are some businesses out there, but for the most part, there are no residents that are out there. And according to the GPS, when I rode up there the second time and did some calculations with the program called Waze, normally from my location to there was about an average about 20 minutes. When we drove up there the first night, it was a little over an hour of drive time. And then the second time was a little bit longer than that to get there. And so traffic was, in my opinion, the biggest issue that they had. And also paying attention to the news here, the days of this event, they continue to mention in the news how chaotic the traffic was. So I really, if there's anything above all, for me, it's going to be the discussion of traffic to be an issue. And so I'll leave some time and I'll come back and speak a little bit more about that later on. There was a lot of things that were there. There was some business opportunities that were allowed there. We saw vendors that were on site that were able to sell clothing and masks and lights and glow sticks and all of those little things that made the event fun for the goers there. So that was something that I found interesting happening there. So I think that overall it was, if I went there as a person, I would enjoy it. Again, I like the music. It was a good event. It is true, there's people that are basically having a good time, just dancing and then loving, and there was a very peaceful event in the sense that everyone was on the same page as enjoying the environment. Going back to the police officer, he had mentioned probably 50% of the people are on drugs. I found that to be the case. Again, they were not violent because they're just enjoying the environment, the lights, and the music. It seemed to be a euphoric type of feeling or scenario that they were having. A lot of love in the air, and so I saw no violence with that. I did see a few times, matter of fact, when we first drove up, there was two individuals that came up to our police car and asked where we could find medical help because there was a person that was in trouble with drug-related. There is kind of this sense of there was something very interesting about the event where the police had mentioned that they had type of a buddy system with individuals that were working there for 2 days, and then the third day they would go free. And to enjoy the event, those individuals were there as buddies, and if they were to find somebody that was in trouble because of drugs, and that person would help them get safely to the medical facilities. And again, there were plenty of medical facilities around, and from the medical facilities, they were able to get you to the MASH-style hospital there to deal with them accordingly. So it was again, pretty well thought out an event, and it was working pretty like a well-oiled machine for what it was. I will tell you that I heard you guys speak about that you guys are planning to have on-site either RVs there. From speaking to the staff over there that helped us out with information, they had pod/tent style climate-controlled tents. They call them pods, and I would call it a tent, but it was basically a pod tent. And so again, it was climate-controlled because, and one other note, they had the event in June before, and they moved it a month forward to now in May due to the weather. They were in June. They are reaching temps of 110 degrees, and obviously it's very difficult for those who are on drugs and the heat, and it really puts it makes it difficult for them. So again, the reason for the climate-controlled pods that they have, the amount of pods that they did have on site was 25,000 pods. They also had a section of RVs. And they provide all of these on site. And so no one is riding the RV down or popping up a tent. They're all provided. These pods as well had a wind speed, I guess a requirement or would hold up to about 60 miles per hour. And so the tent village had its own kind of yoga studio, pool, and small DJ set, and it was quite it was very interesting to see how that worked out. But let me tell you, it was very impressive to see the rows. I mean, it was so extensive that the rows and all the rows had addresses, so that if somebody did have any problems medically or needed to be found, you would just give the address, and everything was kind of they're on Happy Street and Party Lane, for instance, and those are the names, by the way, some of the names, and very funny names, but nonetheless, they have a map and understanding how to get to those addresses as quickly as possible if someone was in need. So it was, again, from a personal perspective, it was a beautiful and great event. And again, it was mind-blowing how big it was. I have some video that I'll share with you guys a little bit. I know that the city manager sent the video. I think we sent one from the ground, and I have a few more that was from the ground as well. Very impressive. And so I just wanted to first chime in and share my experience there. There's a lot more information that I probably didn't go over, and if you guys have any questions you wanted to ask me about it, I could come back and talk to you. I do want to say that I understand where the track is handle NASCAR and over 55,000 participants in it. My first opinion, the first thing I said is that I don't know, and I don't think that we as a city or we as a council and them as a track have really a good idea of the magnitude of this event. It was massive, super impressive, and again, it's rare for me to drop my jaw when I look at something and try to process it, but this one definitely was. And so I would, I want to make sure that we are aware that this is a major. I know you have NASCAR is a major event and the championship is a major, but I think this one is a major event. I don't know if they're at that is at the capacity of EDM at this point, but I think that if this event happens at that venue, it could easily grow to that amount of 100,000 plus attendees. Again, the event was held internally in the track, and in my opinion, I think that would be the ideal scenario of this. If it plays out, it would, in my opinion, would this be held within inside the racetrack, and because believe it or not, all around the track, as large as ours is, theirs is larger, and it was completely filled and completely used by not only the parking, by the pods, by the staff parking, by all the equipment and everything was there. I mean, it was completely surrounded. The parking area, what we know as our parking areas for the track here at Homestead Miami Speedway, it's kind of like I want to say like a 3/4. It doesn't go all the way around. But at this racetrack, their facilities, they have that same type of parking scenario, completely surrounded around this event. And we did drive it out, and it was all taken up. It was all used. So I've heard the mention, or I might be, if I'm incorrect, please correct me, but I believe I heard that, they're thinking about having the event on the outside of the speedway, on the outskirts. I honestly, I'm pretty sure it could be done, but if you're looking at getting to numbers as big as they are, I just don't think it's possible, because I clearly saw that the whole environment surrounding that track was completely used up. And so the event was held within. And it was held in 100 plus thousand attendees. And by the way, that's just attendees. We're not talking about staff, officers, and everyone else that's working the event, all the workers there. And so we have to also calculate that number as how many people will eventually be attending that. So I could go on and on. I have more questions and concerns and facts, and that I'll continue to share. But I'll just hold my time for now in order to give Councilman Guzman an opportunity to speak as well, and then I'll return afterwards and continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Maldonado. Councilman Guzman, do you have any comments or questions at this time?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Excellent. So I've heard a lot of good things, and I've heard a lot of negative things about this venue, and I've read up a lot on the things that make it positive, and I also see that the main thing we ought to be concerned of, or the main thing that I am concerned with, is the quality of life of our residents. And unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to go to the EDM while I was here because my flight got in a little late, but I was able to ask, like Councilman Maldonado just said, a lot of the questions, and the manager specifically told me that the issue with the sound, if the event is held inside the stadium, there most likely will not be any issues with sound at all. However, given the fact that we don't have that information before us, we've got to consider that this might be outside of the stadium, and although, there's talks about pointing the speakers in different directions, without scientific data telling us that it's not going to, disturb the neighboring residents, I think it's very difficult for us to have any discussion on a decision, because if you've got to go to that resident in Keysgate and, we've changed the time from 11 p.m. to 2 a.m., and he's being disturbed and he's got to get up at 5 in the morning to go to work, that's a very difficult conversation to have. So one of my main issues is understanding that the neighboring residents are not going to be disturbed, because they're also going to get hit with traffic. And traffic, like Councilman Maldonado said, is a big issue, and now you have 3 or 4 of these events per year. If that resident is now getting all these traffic issues, that might want to make that resident move out of our city instead of while we're trying to attract. So there's a very fine balance on how we need to approach events of this type of magnitude. And with all of the economic impact that it'll have, my main concern is who are the main bodies that are receiving that economic impact? Yes, the hotels, yes, the restaurants. What about the vendors? Do our local vendors get to participate in the event? So not having a lot of this data before us, it doesn't put me in a very comfortable position to be able to decide if we ought to allow changing the time from 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. So that's all I've got to say at the moment.
All right, thank you, Councilman Guzman. Vice Mayor Burgess.
First, does Mr. Garcia want to respond to Mr. Guzman's question about local vendors?
We can certainly consider that and encourage Ultra, but we haven't even gotten down to that level of detail, because first we have to have the permits to be
I'm
able to
sorry.
operate.
Can you guys back up? We lost you for like a moment. Can you start all over again? I apologize.
Yeah, Councilman Maldonado, I am responding to Councilman Guzman's interest in having local vendors participate, and the answer is that we are not there yet. We're not far enough down the road. We don't have a deal with Ultra. We will certainly encourage them to do so, but at this point, until we have the permits to go to 2 a.m., then we can do a contract with Ultra, then we can address those type of issues. But it would be premature to start talking about vendors and different opportunities when at this point we don't have the permits we need to host the event. Once we have the permits, once we know we're hosting an event, then we will address those issues.
Thank you.
I think perhaps you or maybe one of your representatives can answer. There is a mechanism in place that Hard Rock, and this goes back to making money, so that's why I chimed in. There's a mechanism, as you guys spoke about Hard Rock Stadium earlier, bringing events to their facility, and they get monies given to them from the state and from the county. Would, by bringing this and several other events down here, would we be able or eligible to dig into that pool of funds potentially, and are you guys aware of it and able to give any information about the possibilities of that? I think Dennis Moss alluded to it when I spoke with him about monies from different areas that might be able to be given to us to be shared revenue, or perhaps something of that effect.
Yes, I can't answer that at this point in time, but what I can tell you is that we, as your partner, would look to go to the county and explore any opportunity for economic gain as a partner approaching the county. And I spoke to Commissioner Moss as well, and he says there may be some opportunities, some different programs that would help subsidize or transportation or CDT money that might be available, but I can't speak to that at this point.
Our council also shared with us the City of Miami contract, and one of their clauses in there was a surcharge per ticket. And as we all know, you guys are looking to add revenue to yourselves. We're looking to help the city out with different issues that have arisen throughout the years. And I was wondering if we could get a possibility, working with you guys, and I bring this up with one thing being is, an average ticket, I believe, out there is about a $1,200 ticket if you go all 3 days at a VIP level. So one thing that I thought of reading the Miami contract and how they did it was perhaps the city of Homestead could put a $2 surcharge per ticket for these type of events that run after 11 p.m. And that would help the city to become, I guess, for lack of a better term, whole on a bill that is not as large as we anticipated, but still a bill that we have gotten as revenues have shrunk on the lease and that type of stuff. I mean, I know you guys would have to work that out with the vendor, but I'm just wondering if you think that that's a possibility and something that we might be able to move forward with, because that gives us hard money. That's not us waiting on the state, or the county, which we know has many different arms pulling in all directions at both levels. And this would give the city some hard money to work with through parks, or to help with whatever we need money with to subsidize the general fund or whatever it is. I'm just wondering if that's a possibility or something that could be thrown into the scope of things. And I know that catches you off guard because I hadn't shared that with really with anybody. But I think that would be a very, very helpful tool also for the city. So
That's a great question. It's an interesting suggestion. I am not privy to, I have not seen the contract they had with the city of Miami, so I can't really comment
I mean,
there.
they even had as far as to where they had an internal auditor that went in and checked every ticket on a daily basis to make sure that Ultra was, or they had the ability to, I should say, per the contract, to go in and check the tickets. And Ultra had to show them in the morning what ticket they were starting at and what ticket they ended at that evening, and all that type of stuff. So I just think that that's something that we don't have an ordinance in place, so I would have to ask our attorney to work on something that all parties could be accept. But I think that is, that's hard money that comes to the city, and that would be, I think, a big plus for the city also, not just for the local businesses. And of course, you guys would still get, your money would be what your money is, and this would be an ordinance money on top, similar to the way the city of Miami positioned itself with Ultra.
Right. I would certainly discuss it with the folks from Ultra if we end up doing a deal with Ultra. I do think I would like to point out that that was a little bit of a different deal, in that Ultra was a one-off, and they operated in the city of Miami for 3 or 4 or 5 days per year, and that was it. We're there 365, and we pay lease payments for the opportunity and the privilege to promote events.
I don't want to go there tonight because that's not a favorable number for the city. But with this ordinance in place, everything would become a favorable number. That's what I'm trying to get at.
You're right. That's probably best not to go there, but I don't know or understand why it wouldn't be a favorable number.
Thank you.
Mayor Shelley?
Oh, hold on. All right, Vice Mayor Burgess is done. Is that you, Councilman Guzman?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, Councilman Guzman. You've got the floor.
I also did the research on the contract between City of Miami and Ultra, and the way they did the surcharge was every ticket sale that was over $250 up to $499, there was a $5 surcharge. And then every $500 to $999, there was a $10 surcharge. So going off of what Vice Mayor Burgess' number was at $2 a surcharge, I think that'd be premature to come up with that figure now. But I don't even know if we're even discussing this now. It's probably way too early to be discussing funds, but I just wanted to know if that would be something that the track would consider, adding a surcharge to ticket sales for our local government, for City of Homestead.
The way our deal is structured with Ultra, the proposed deal, we don't see any of the ticket revenue. Okay, they pay us a lease payment like a track rental agreement, but that's not to say there aren't opportunities for the community.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Okay. What I'm saying is that the way our contract or the proposed contract is structured does not call for us to capture any of the ticket revenue. It's a straight, a straight lease. Now that said, there is opportunity to enhance the community. One of the things that we would talk to them about is perhaps they have a foundation that could commit to a long-term beautification or improvement project that would be something that this council would see as a benefit to the east side in particular. But as I said, this deal is not fully baked, and there's an opportunity to discuss a ticket surcharge, and we'll be glad to do so. I just want to make it clear that that the track itself is not participating in any of the ticket revenue at this point.
Got it.
That answer your question,
Thank you.
Councilman Guzman?
Yes.
Okay. Any additional questions? You still have the floor.
No, no additional questions at this time, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. I do want to chime in a little bit here, I guess, express some of my own, feelings or comments. And so when this first came before us as an option, I had mixed feelings, pros and cons. Same thing, I heard a lot of pros, I heard a lot of negative, and so it was a matter of trying to get in there and figure out factually what was or was not maybe good for the city of Homestead. And so as of even the end of the last week, my biggest concern that I came up with wasn't so much, I think I'm okay with the idea of Ultra coming here. I'm okay with giving it an opportunity to, see what it's about, see what kind of impact it has on the city. With the issue that I had came down to this 10-year term. And I know that right now the Ultra is dictating that they want a long-term contract, that they, in order for them to invest in this area to see how it works, in order to establish themselves, they're wanting 10 years. And so my biggest concern was the fact that, I was potentially going to have to commit to something that I didn't know the consequences of. I didn't know what the effects actually would be on the city of Homestead, because it could all be good, it could all be bad, because typically everyone thinks in extremes. And so it's never the extremes, it's something in between is the actual reality of what actually happens. And so that's kind of been where I've been torn for quite some time now, is trying to figure out, is there some sort of solution there? And, I'd love to see a 1 and 9, I know they need a long-term deal, so we all get 1 year to kind of fill each other out, and if there's no major issues, then they get a 9-year deal after that. They get the total of 10 years, but we get a chance to kind of feel it all out. And that would be an ultimate, idealistic way of dealing with this, but I also understand that Ultra, I guess, is not open to that option at all, or at least doesn't. I don't know if they've been approached by it. I don't know if you've had a chance to discuss any of those actions with you. Have they completely foreclosed any type of structure other than 10 years flat?
That is correct.
Okay. And so, ultimately that's what I've been struggling with is how to deal with the potential of voting for something, not knowing exactly what the real effects are going to be. And my biggest concern, I think, more so than anything else, is the effect on the surrounding communities and the nearby neighborhoods, and primarily more noise, I think, related than anything else, because that's ultimately what I think is going to be the biggest effect to the neighborhoods. The rest, I think, can be addressed or have been addressed through the normal traffic means, through the racetrack and the way the speedway has worked. And it's inconveniencing, but it's not catastrophic. But I will say that, having the city manager and city staff go out to Vegas this past weekend and actually see a concert or a program that's similar to what you guys are proposing or what Ultra is proposing to bring to here. And actually, I think they probably are a bigger outfit than what Ultra currently is, because they had 7 stages. They had, they were taking up every inch of the inside of that track. And so staff was able to go out there and actually factually acquire some data with a speedway hosted event that neighbors, abutting neighborhoods, very similar to what we have here in the city of Homestead. So it's a good kind of comparison piece to see what would the effects actually be. And some of the data that came back and some of the facts came back, make me feel a little bit better about it, but I'm still uneasy. But ultimately, their determination, as Councilman Maldonado went into great detail about, as far as the findings that they found and the experience that he had, and ultimately city staff reported back as well. The noise 3 to 4 blocks from the track was not really an issue. They couldn't even hear it. They didn't know the event was going on. So that seems to alleviate some of my biggest concerns. Not so much that there won't be an issue, but the fact that if it's done right, if it's ran right, if it's set up right, if it's structured correctly, that an event like this could occur, that we could receive the benefits of that event, but also mitigate or potentially completely eliminate most of the major issues for our residents. And so for that, My next concern now becomes, as Councilman Guzman mentioned, is there's not a whole lot of structure here right now that I can be comfortable with. And so I think that if it's structured correctly, I could get behind it and I could possibly support it. But there's also a lot of unknowns as it comes to, exactly what's the policing going to look like? What is the site plan going to look like? I know that they've represented that the speakers will be set a certain direction. Councilman Maldonado and Vice Mayor Burgess, mentioned the inside about the track. I mean, is that one reason why Vegas was so quiet out, immediately surrounding it? Was because you had the structure that was blocking a lot of that noise. If it's done outside of the track, will it have a different effect? And so for me, making sure that we have some sort of parameters as part of whatever we're approving or whatever we're moving forward with as some sort of condition to make sure that all efforts are made to mitigate or minimize the effects on the surrounding neighborhood or the surrounding communities, making sure that we have proper number of police officers to respond or manage the event, potentially having some sort of on-site hospital or triage, that they had up there that allows to make sure that anybody that it does have any issues, there's immediate medical attention. Some of those things are the ones that I still don't have any clarity on, and I'm hoping as we continue this discussion, after public comment, that maybe we can have some additional conversation about what that might look like and what assurances we might have that if given the opportunity to proceed, that you'll be able to put in those parameters or those safeguards that would be necessary to make us feel comfortable that at the end of the day, this could be run right and done correctly and not have a huge effect on the community that's immediately abutting it, but at the same time still allow us to capture the economic impact that this might have, as well as the the notoriety of kind of adding something of this significance to our city, of providing full service city where not everybody may like it, but at the same time they have access to very different cultural aspects within our city, within the city of Homestead, which I think is important as well. And lastly, I do want to mention the surcharge concept that Vice Mayor brought up, because that's I think it is intriguing, and although your contract with them you guys may not benefit directly from the ticket sales, if you're not opposed to it and they're not opposed to it, a $2 or $5 surcharge to a $1,000 ticket or even a couple $100 ticket. I mean, people pay that all the time, when you're going through Ticketmaster and other venues and other places. That adds up over 150,000 people or 100,000 people that are attending, and that's real revenue to the city of Homestead. That's hard dollars, because a lot of these other economic impacts are great, but we are not necessarily as a city structured to capitalize yet on all of this potential. We don't have enough hotels. We don't have enough businesses. We don't have enough restaurants for 100,000 people to capitalize, $100 million like the city of Miami maybe was positioned to do. But a surcharge, hard dollars coming back to the city, that's a real benefit to us that we can utilize for whatever purpose, whether it be related to the event or whether it be related to other things that we have planned. That's a real benefit. So I would like to see if that can be pursued in some form or fashion, because it seems like a very small impact to both the track and to Ultra when you're talking, and to the consumer. I mean, it's a small number for one person, but added up, it's quite large. So I just wanted to kind of lay the groundwork on some of my concerns and some of my thought processes as we're going through this tonight, and as we have public comment and ultimately make a decision or give direction one way or another. Any additional questions or comments from council before I open this up to the public hearing? Hearing none, then I'm going to go ahead and open up the public hearing. Anybody that'd like to speak on this item, please make a line and come up one at a time and state your name and address for the record. You'll have 3 minutes to make your comments.
Good evening. My name is Benjamin Perez, address 3732 Northeast 23rd Court. I represent the community of faith here in Homestead, Florida, some of the pastors and leaders of the city. And it's with great respect that we address as our faithful and public servants. We know that weighty issues are before you and difficult decisions have to be made. We have heard that the Ultra Music Festival organization has negotiated with the Homestead Miami Speedway to move their annual event from Miami to the Speedway. It is clear to see the main reason they are moving from Miami. It's due to the many problems they have had over the years in Bayside and recently in Virginia Key. Not a year goes by without receiving disturbing reports of serious problems experienced at this annual event. It appears these reports of serious traffic issues, excessive and early morning noise, public intoxication, drug-induced medical emergencies, and even multiple deaths have become too much for even the progressive city of Miami to tolerate any longer. We know these reports and many first-hand accounts, this festival is more like a very extended rave club party and much less like a true music festival. These parties by nature are characterized by rampant drug and alcohol abuse and the creation of a detrimental atmosphere that oftentimes brings headache and tragedy on many of those in attendance and their families and surrounding citizens. Many of us live in the vicinity of the racetrack and cannot imagine the noise that will create until the wee hours of the night by one of the loudest music events on the planet. Furthermore, we feel the influence of this type of event on our local youth disrupts the great investment that has been made to instill healthy values in our beloved city of Homestead. We are grateful to live in a unique city, one with incredible year-around weather, beautiful tropical, are grateful to live in scenarios, high family values, and a sense of tradition that have held us together. Government, industry, education, and the citizens. Our community can weather the effects of having an event like Ultra here, but we feel it goes against much of what we have worked to achieve over a long period of time. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council.
Good evening, council members. My name is Eric Weiner. I live at 1052 Northeast 30th Avenue. There's a lot to digest here. Not everybody here, I'm not trying to be insulting, is dancing around the fact that there are residents surrounding the area who would be impacted by a festival going till 2 in the morning. This council in the past has impacted in a negative way, in my opinion, quality of life issues, and this would just be one more thing going down that path. And I would have to ask that this council vote down the idea of extending the venue to 2 in the morning. It's very unfair to the people, the residents living surrounding the area. They didn't sign up for that. I'm just offering my opinion. Thank you for your time.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Larry Ventura, representing Homestead Air Reserve Base. The Wing Commander has sent me here tonight to attempt to resolve and deconflict some of the Ultra Concert concerns that he has. He does not wish, he wants me to let you all know, to be a problem or be a bad neighbor or to create you any headaches in trying to make a decision tonight, and we value our relationship with the track and wish to maintain it. His concern is only the timing of the event. The event is currently scheduled for the March UTA weekend. For those of you who are not familiar or unsure or unclear of what the base's mission is, the base trains reservists to go to war. We do that on a weekend basis. 1 week in a month, we bring in all our reservists to train to do this. So at a reserve base, that's when the majority of our operations take place. This happens to be on the same weekend. So our concerns are only two. One you'll hear, I'm sure, repeatedly tonight, which is traffic. But the other, and what you may or may not hear, is hotel rooms. Currently, when we have a UTA weekend, we utilize on the average of 360 hotel rooms on every UTA weekend every month. That is spread out through 10 different hotels throughout the area. So we're concerned that on that weekend, those could be an interference. Furthermore, there are, of course, other things like fireworks and laser lights, which they will have to go through the FAA to get waivers because those are a hazard to aircraft. We'll have to note them, will have to be established for aircraft flying over. In short, I have a minute, 20 seconds. We're concerned about the timing. We do not wish to stop anything or to prevent anyone from carrying out their plans for a music festival, but we do ask that it be deconflicted, and it's for this reason. If we cannot train the warfighter on a weekend at a reserve base, then I think there'll be a problem in the future. Right now, we're looking to try and do this for many years into the future. So if we cannot do our UTA weekend on that weekend in March, okay, what happens the year after and the year after that? And if we're going to bring out here tonight 3 or 4 festivals during the year, are we also going to have a problem with those festivals? Are we going to be able to deconflict the UTA weekends at the bases? We only train 1 weekend out of the month, so there's 3 other weekends out of any month that anyone can use. But on those 12 weekends a year, we need to do that. And if this festival is going on, we're probably going to have to attempt to move it, which is possible, but not always easy. We have an exercise coming up in April, and the commander would like a full 4 weeks in between. That said, I talked to Al Garcia, and he was good with me, and he suggested a few alternative dates that he would run by the ultra organizers, February 28th through March 1st, March 13th through the 15th, and March 27th through the 29th. Respectfully request an additional 3 minutes to finish, sir.
No, unfortunately, we're very strict about our time, so.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, council, staff, and I think everybody agrees that safety is really not our biggest issue because we have great police officers in our city and around the Miami area. However, and I'm not opposed to music festivals. I don't think anybody is. I think this one, because of the Alta, what it is an issue. And I will tell you, several years ago, I did attend the festival, the Ultra Festival in Miami. And I was there with the venue from out east that was coming in to take a look at what it was all about. And I can tell you, I'm old, but I mean, I understand kids having fun and everybody enjoying the music and having a great time. But I will tell you, drugs is the issue. It's everybody there. I think Councilman Maldonado said 50% of the people where he was. It's all about drugs. I mean, the people aren't, they're not bad people, but they are people that do drugs. I mean, do we really want to have that in our city? To me, that's a problem. We're a neighborhood in Keysgate, and I live in the Fairways, and I'm, transparent. I'm the delegate for Fairways. And we have so many residents over there. I just can't imagine having that music till 2 o'clock in the morning. I mean, I guess if they came in and said 11 o'clock, maybe it would be something to consider. But, I mean, moving the time to 2 o'clock is crazy. And to be honest, as a council, I don't know how you can come to any conclusion on this tonight with the limited information that you have from the track. They have nothing. They don't even know if they have the venue. So what is the point of passing an ordinance that you know nothing about at this time? So really, that's all I have to say. So thank you very much.
Darlene Polo Kramer, 2816 Augusta Drive. So I am concerned about the 2 a.m. I don't see why. I support having music festivals, but in other cities they stop before at 11. 11 seems appropriate for me. I'm right on Palm Drive, so the traffic will be an issue. But I know the track does a good job. But I'm a little feeling a little that the track's a little disingenuous because I was here when the discussion of Solera was going on, and one reason the track spoke about not building Solera was the issue with noise from the track affecting residents and the complaints. I can assure you my residents, my neighbors will complain if there's music till 2 a.m. So I hope you don't give them a buy at this. I was happy to hear that it will be decided on a case-by-case basis, but I don't want to be the trial person unless I get my little cut of that $2 a ticket. Thank you.
Councilman Shelley, Mayor Shelley.
Yeah, hold on, we still have some public comment, but go ahead.
I know, but that's the reason why I'm chiming in. I would just ask that all speakers please speak into the mic. It is very difficult to hear it. Thank you.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, like that.
My name's Edward Powell. I'm at 745 Southeast 18th Lane in Northgate. I live about 2 miles as the crow flies from the racetrack. I love to hear the cars go around. Oh, it's beautiful. Now we sit and we see the fireworks come up. Beautiful. I don't have to leave the house. When this came up and I heard the word ultra, I went, my God, hey, something's coming to Homestead. We're finally getting something in Homestead. You know me, you know my wife. We've been involved in this visitor thing here for years. We're at the visitor center. We've been on committees. We've been on volunteers. We need stuff in Homestead. We need the recognition. And we keep saying this is a place to stay, not a place to stop to go somewhere else. Stay here, spend your money here. There are things to do here. The Redland Trail, the national parks, we got a beautiful place. The racetrack, 5, 6, 8 years ago, had this great project about moving the Speedway out west towards the boat place and extending all their area out into the parking lot to make it a full-time, year-round activity. Hasn't happened. I'm hoping now we've got a little thing settled here between the track and the city. Maybe we're still rethinking that a little bit. But that's a great economic generator. It should be active. It is active. I can hear them all weekend. I hear them racing out there every weekend. Most people don't know what's going on out there. It's active, very active out there. So to bring that in here, people say, oh, traffic, the noise. I'm sorry, folks, for 2 hours or 4 hours, 100,000 people are here having fun. If you don't like it, you've got earplugs. We'll hand out earplugs to all the people that complain about the noise, and everybody be happy. Close your doors, close the blinds, put on your earplugs, turn up your television. Everybody's happy. Thank you.
Well, only one person at a time. Sorry about that.
Translate from Spanish to
Okay, let's do that. Let's try it. First time that's me.
Buenas tardes, gracias, alcalde y comisionados por escucharme.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to listen to me.
Mi nombre es Elkin Espinal, vivo en Homestead.
I'm Elkin Espinal. I live in Homestead.
Soy pastor en la ciudad.
I'm a pastor in the city.
Y quisiera hablar de la parte negativa del Festival Ultra.
And I want to speak about the negative part of the Ultra Festival.
Como líder comunitario veo cómo afecta a nuestra juventud.
And as a leader in the community, I see how it affects young people.
Trae problemas de drogas.
The problem of drugs.
Mucho tránsito.
And a lot of traffic.
Y mucho ruido para nuestra ciudad.
A lot of noise for our city.
O sea, vivo como a milla y media.
And I live about 1.5 miles from the racetrack.
Y realmente veo el impacto negativo.
And I see the negative impact.
Quisiera que ustedes pudieran considerar
And I would ask that you would consider
que no tuviéramos el festival en nuestra ciudad.
That we would not have this festival.
Creo que nuestra ciudad puede salir adelante sin el Festival Ultra.
And I think the city can go forward even without this festival.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Hello. My name is Christina McNamara. I live over in Mendocino, which is a lot closer to the racetrack than Keysgate, obviously. The only thing I have to say is 2 o'clock in the morning. I mean, when they had the electric run in 2013, I lived over in Keysgate at the time, in Northgate, and I participated in it, and they had an after party over there with a DJ and loud music. I could hear it in Northgate. So by saying that we won't hear any noise, I'm not convinced of that. And to 2 o'clock in the morning, I mean, we have cops that live in our neighborhood that work shifts. We have people, I work at the National Weather Service. So we've got people that live over there that work shifts too. And, you know, it's not just the traffic, it's the noise too, and them trying to sleep. We don't work Monday through Fridays a lot of times, you know, we work Saturdays, Sundays, nighttime. So that would have an impact on all of us too. So I wish you'd take that into consideration.
Any additional public comment?
Good afternoon. My name is David Day. I live out in the Redlands. Just a couple of concerns. One, I think the negatives outweighs the positive overall from everything we've heard in the past hour and a half. Two, it's very disturbing to hear the relationship of ultra and drugs. It's like 40 years ago, Miami was relationship with Miami and drugs, no different. Same thing, we're enabling a concert to come out and just be able to allow them to do whatever they want to do. It's already been known for the drugs, and I don't think we should bring this in Homestead or anywhere in Miami or South Day, considering 40 years ago was very tough to change Miami. It's the image of Miami. It took a long time. It took years. And for those who've been around a long time could say, yes, it took a lot of years. And I think we don't want that type of element in our city or in our county. And I think it's something to be considered.
Last call. Any public comment? Any additional public comment? Seeing none, I'll close the public comment. Any additional questions or comments from council?
Yes, Mayor Shea, I have a question.
Sure, go ahead, Councilman Guzman.
Do we have any data on the amount of deaths that have occurred from this festival?
I think can you restate that? I don't think we all heard you.
I was asking if we have any data that specifies the amount of deaths since the inception of this festival. Is it 1? Is it 3? Is it 5?
Does city staff have any answers to that? No, just the track note of the information. Okay. I don't know that we have anybody here that has any specific data on that information or can answer that question. No one seems to have that data.
I could chime in there.
Further question.
Was that you, Councilman Maldonado?
Yes, I could chime in on that. When I spoke with the police officers, obviously that was one of the questions that we asked. Originally, any deaths that occur were due to the time of the event with a mixture of drugs. Again, because of that, they ended up having these tanks of ice water, kind of like what an athlete would use after a game, where they're kind of soaking in ice water, something to that nature, where the idea is the deaths are due to just the mixture of the drugs and the heat was something that would just destroy the body. And so again, the reason why they moved it to May was to curb that heat. And so from then on, the deaths weren't there. Because the type of drug that we're using was something that worked with the heat, and it kind of just amplified it. And so, and then other than that, yes, there were some overdoses, but because the type of drugs that they use in these events were the type that would kind of, if overused, it puts you into a deep sleep where you might not be able to wake up. That's why they created the kind of a buddy system. So if you see someone that's passed out on the floor, maybe they're not sleeping, they're actually, because of this drug, they've gone over the state of a deep sleep where they're not able to wake up from. And so the number of deaths have decreased just because of the change in the time. And so I just wanted to share some of that. If you don't mind, if I could just keep the floor for a moment.
Hold on,
Mayor?
Councilman, because Councilman Guzman has the floor, and so I want to make sure he's answered his questions, and I have some others here that have indicated they want to speak first. So.
Okay, just let me know when I can
Get
come
back
in.
to you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I yield it back to you, sir.
I didn't hear you. Sorry, Councilman Guzman.
I yield it back to you, Mr. Mayor. No further questions.
Okay, thank you. Vice Mayor Burgess.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Shelley. If I could reach to Josh Klott, who is a major in our police force and has worked the event, as he stated, 7 or 8 years and has been around it more than that. Do you have any information of any deaths at the Ultra Festival here in Miami in recent times?
I can get exact information. This recent year, none. And I don't believe anybody's actually ever passed away at the festival. There have been deaths that have occurred, people transported afterwards. I don't have the exact facts, but it's limited. We can find out more. We can find out from Ultra, but it's none for the last couple of years for sure.
Thank you. One of the major things that I see also is the economic thing that we have. Anybody that lives on the east side of town and is driven over there by that $18 million, as my old friend Jim Trantham used to call pink elephant, it's no longer standing there. It's been demolished. So the city, the county, everybody that pays taxes contributed to that $18 million fiasco called a baseball stadium that has now been demolished. And this is nothing on the racetrack and its current activities, but the city also owns that. And ISC is a large corporation that leases the racetrack from the city of Homestead. And they're run by a board and by shareholders. And those shareholders are worldwide, and if they're not seeing a return on their investment, eventually they're going to go, and eventually the board members will be put under pressure to leave a venue that is not a economic success for them. Granted, the championship race went away. I'm sure there's some revenues. The revenue stream will not be as large for a race in March as it would be in November. That's my guess. That's not a factual statement. That is what I would assume as a layman. But I know that the city cannot allow another entity such that it owns to go under like we have. And if they need some help economically to help the city sustain what it has built out there over the since 1993, I believe is when the ground was broken, till today, which is 26 years, then we need to look at other avenues. And those avenues may be ultra, they may be other types of racing that come in there, but as a partner to them, we need to reach out and allow them to bring an economic success to our product, because we own that. And so I just put that out there as, it's kind of good timing, I guess, as we look over there and see where the baseball stadium is today. And the last of it was knocked down yesterday. So there is no more baseball stadium. And that reminded me today as I was riding by there that, we cannot allow this type of stuff to happen and let that stigma be put upon Homestead either, as we try to grow and enhance and become a worldwide recognized area with the national parks and all of that around us. So I just put that out there for a minute. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Councilman Roth.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I was actually going to bring that up as well, Vice Mayor. I nostalgically took a ride today purposely to go by and see what was going on at the old baseball stadium. That was someone's field of dreams that just didn't come to reality. And, I thought about the amount of money we spent over the years to maintain a property that the city owned that really none of us could use for many years. We were fortunate to have that space when the police department needed a place to go temporarily. It was never adequate for what they were doing out there, but the $500,000 a year that it cost us to maintain that facility over the years that nobody could use could have very easily gone to hiring more police officers, improving our parks, adding parks, making additional repairs around the city. Roads, people complain about the condition of roads all the time. And I'm all for a surcharge to these tickets as well, so that it could make an economic impact on our infrastructure as well. We rely on the county to do so many things, and I know that our staff is working on helping persuade the county to start repaving 137 Avenue leading into the track. The county has some obligation to help us with that track. That road infrastructure is deteriorating so bad that I don't even like to drive out on 137 Avenue anymore. So I'm assuming that staff is working on that and talking to those folks. There's been a lot of information covered here tonight, and the real subject is a 3-hour window of time. As the mayor mentioned earlier, a 1-in-9 contract is something that would give some peace of mind to a lot of people. One, if it does get out of control, we drop it. Ultra's done that very recently. They had a contract with Key Biscayne, and after the first event, it didn't work out logistically for them. They're gone. The bigger concern I have is our residents' quality of life. And I understand that manager and staff were out at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway, and the containment of sound and all that stuff, because it was inside the speedway, the bleachers helped knock down the sound. The terrain out in Las Vegas is pretty flat, so if sound's going to get out, it's going to travel. Here we have a lot of vegetation and things that may help knock down some of the sound. Obviously, if the wind's blowing from the east to the west, it's going to push sound our way. Those of you that live out in the Redlands know that, because when you hear the races, it's because the wind's coming from the east and blowing to the west, and you hear it out there, and you probably like it. Just like the bass. When those jets go flying over, the noise they create. To me, that's the sound of freedom. And I wish he would have had more time to say a little bit more about the base, because when we have assets in the city, and we have assets that contribute to our city, we have to protect those. Anytime somebody comes up and starts to threaten the base, guess what? We get up and we do our thing. No encroachment to the base. We want that base to be here. The base has a scheduling problem. I understand that. UTAs, traffic, hotels. We all have a lot of issues to work out now. There's a lot of details here that have come up. Noise is the biggest thing I think that I'm concerned with. There's been a lot of talk about drug use tonight. It's everywhere anyways. It really is. Whether you know it or not, when you're at your house at night at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, there are people all over this county in nightclubs, partying up, having a good time, doing what they do. I'm not preaching that that's not right. I'm not preaching that that's not wrong. What I'm preaching is we have an asset out there at the Homestead Miami Speedway. I don't want it to end up like the pink elephant that just got knocked down. I don't want to look back 20 years from now and say we had an opportunity to help a partner in the city bring additional revenues, but there's still a lot of questions that have to be answered. And compensation to the city for the inconvenience that we may have to go through, I think is warranted. But I don't know that we can come to a decision knowing we're going to pass this and we pretty much have no control after that. Once we give them a 2 a.m. time frame, we can't come back and say anything else. We can't demand anything of them. We can't do anything. So I don't want to hold up progress. I don't want to hold up the future of what happens at the racetrack. I want to protect that asset. Let me throw one more thing out there while I'm thinking about it. The baseball stadium over the years cost us about $500,000 a year to maintain. The city of Homestead pays the taxes for Homestead Miami Speedway through our agreement. Okay? Just the taxes alone last year were nearly $600,000 that we're paying for that asset to sit out there. After we got our money back, because we pay and then we get it back from the county, it was still over $400,000 a year. So add that on top of if NASCAR were to leave, which I'm not saying they're going to leave, but if NASCAR was to leave, would cost us a minimum of $600,000 a year plus the maintenance and the maintaining of that building until something was decided with it. $600,000 a year that we collect money now on a lease, that it's not really costing us, kind of a wash, plus we make money on the lease, whatever. But if we lose that, we lose for the city $600,000 plus a year, which would mean probably reduced services as well, reduced police coverage throughout the city. Maybe not so much maintenance on our parks and our regs. Maybe not so much maintenance on our roads. So it's about noise, it's about drugs, it's about all these things that none of us will probably even see going on out there. But we still have some details that we have to work out prior to, I think, unless I'm wrong, and if we do this tonight, Matt, and give them a 2 a.m. cutoff, do we have any negotiating ability after the fact with the promoter and with the Speedway?
I would, if you have concerns, I would suggest that you make them stipulations to any authorization you give them to 2 a.m. at this point, and so that you can condition it on its maintenance of traffic or whatever it is, whatever your particular concerns are. I would suggest that you try to address them up front, as opposed so everyone's on the same page in how this would operate going forward, as opposed to trying to rectify anything later after the fact.
Right. So with that said, the biggest concern that we've heard from a few people tonight was noise. There is no site plan available for us. There is no plan on where this event's even going to take place, whether inside the track, outside the track. I'm going to yield now, Mayor. I think I've said enough for now. I appreciate the opportunity to speak, and I'll listen to my colleagues here and elsewhere, and maybe we can wrap this thing up tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. No, and I think that Councilman Roth does, for consideration for us, that's kind of the question now. Is it a, if we're going to go and vote yes, if that's what the will of council is, then is it just yes for 2 a.m.? Or do we want to set any type of conditions tonight? Do we want to have any parameters tonight on that discretionary granting of 2 a.m.? So I think that's part of what we all need to be discussing as we're moving forward through this conversation tonight. Vice Mayor Burgess, is it related to Councilman Roth? Because I do want to get to Councilman Maldonado. He's been waiting.
Go ahead.
Okay. Councilman Maldonado? Councilman Maldonado, are you still there?
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we've got you now. I think you were on mute.
Yes, I
Go
was.
ahead.
Thank you.
You have the floor. You're recognized.
Thank you. Yeah, hearing everyone, and again, I'll try to, I'm hearing my echo, so I'll try to work through that. Yes, we need to figure out a win-win-win. That is going to be our decision or our final discussion today's a win-win-win. Going back to some of my points, my concern, again, is the traffic. Right now, for example, and I will put my personal, my girlfriend works in City of Miami. It takes her right now to get home when she leaves at 5 p.m. over an hour and a half just to get home, Monday through Friday. If these events happen, and I want to point out that this is a 3-day concert that comes and goes. And so on Friday, when everyone's, okay, yes, you might have a certain amount that's staying there. Let's say a 25% of what's attending would stay there. That rest 75% is going to be coming down on traffic. We have no kind of study or mitigation or plans with the track, with Ultra, with the, to try to mitigate and figure out, there's nothing before us that helps me make a decision today on allowing the 2 a.m. extension when I have no information in front of me to make a solid decision. We're going to add on our residents an extra 2 hours at the minimum, as it is right now, on top of the hour and a half it takes to get home. And God forbid there's already an accident, that hour and a half that is normal turns into an extra half an hour, which makes it 2 hours. So you add those, if that happens, that's 2 hours, plus the other 2 hours from those individuals that are coming down here. We're going to have some very upset residents that's going to take 4 hours to get home. We're going to have an issue. I could not do that to my residents at all. And so, again, the win-win-win. The main point I want to say here now is for the track to understand is that, you guys were going to make money. The hotels, the economy are going to make money. The residents make no money. And so I don't think the residents should bear the burden of all these inconvenience without some type of return to them. And this return should be a financial one and the way of social impacts to our community, whether it's money that we get, that we as a council decide to go to a park to renovate, for instance, infrastructure, CIP, whatever, but that somehow our residents are able to win as well. That's why I said win, win, win. There has to be three, right? And the residents are the first one. So, that is going to determine, for me to allow this to extend to 2 a.m. Oh, and by the way, on a case-by-case basis, according to the contract that is in hand right now, that financial impact it needs to be hammered out. I'm hearing that you don't have a contract and you don't have the information, but I can't give you a 2 a.m. extension without that information in front of me. I just can't do it. It's difficult. And so the first thing, and I think that's the main thing for me, is the traffic that's going to impact our residents. If I can't provide my residents a good example, excuse, or a reason as to why I'm not impacting their quality of life, which they work hard on a daily basis. We are the hardest working community in Miami-Dade County. We live the farthest, we drive the farthest, and we stay down here for a purpose, a reason. We love Homestead, and also the cost of living here, it's more affordable than it is in Miami, obviously, and why a lot of people are moving down here. And so for me to impact their lives with traffic or inconveniences, for others to gain financially and them not being to gain anything is my biggest concern, and this council should really consider without that. I hear what Vice Mayor had mentioned in regards to the memory of the baseball stadium and what happened there. I think I'd like to speak on that, on the sense that what happened in the original agreement with that stadium being there, what affected that was the fact of the Hurricane Andrew, and it was what they call a natural event that affected that. Because the hurricane came, because the hurricane destroyed the city of Homestead, that team could not stay there and do what they were supposed to do. So from my understanding, historically, that organization handed the keys over to the city of Homestead and said, hey, we can't do nothing here. Here are the keys. Have a nice day. We're out of here. And they left that in our hands. And so it was unfortunate that it took so many years for our leaders to analyze that we were losing money. And by the way, it was $500,000 at the end, but prior to that, from my understanding, it was almost $1 million a year that we were paying over a period of time, because no one, people were council members that said we could sell this or we could do that, and we tried it ourselves. Don't get me wrong, we did it ourselves, so I get it. But we held on to it too long, and so it cost us too much money. And so I'm glad that that's being demolished. Now, I know we have a responsibility. Yes, the track belongs to us, and we have a responsibility to make sure that as a business partner that it is successful. And we're willing to do that. But again, we need to create a win-win-win for the city. And I could tell you, in my humble opinion, that the current contract that they have at the racetrack, in my opinion, it's a bad deal. Again, in my opinion. Why do I say that? I just got the numbers. As we are aware of, we were handed a financial spreadsheet in regards to what we've been paying on taxes on a yearly basis. And in a nutshell, what I see, just a simple issue that I see is we've had that track. That track was established and built in 1995. The current contract ends in 2030. That tells me that is about a 35-year, I think it was, let me see my number I have here. Give me a second. Give me a second here, I got the number here. So, from the original lease, which was in 1995 to 2030, it will be a total of 34 years. I understand when speaking to Matt Pearl today, our legal counsel, that there were some changes or amendments, and then a new and final agreement or operating management agreement was established in 2001. So from 2001 to 2030, which was where this current contract will end, is a total of 29 years. After 29 years, according to the spreadsheet that we have, the city will net about $5 million. And that is only if the taxes do not raise, they go up if due to the fact that any modification or enhancements are made on the track, and which would raise that those taxes and take more from what we have. In my opinion, it's not a great deal. So this would be an opportunity for us to kind of make up on what was a bad deal. Again, in my position, a deal is a deal. I recall that was mentioned to me back in the days. That is correct. What was done was done. It's in the contract, and we can't do nothing about it. But this is an opportunity in their time for us. They're asking us for an extension. It's going to impact our community, and it's our responsibility to make sure that we create a win-win-win for our community. So I wanted to mention that. Third, I'm glad that the base did come up and speak a few words. That was my main concern. The economic impact of this base to our city, which is I know that a lot of times they talk about an economical impact or 250 million, or Ultra does 100 million, and so on and so on. But that is for Miami-Dade County. It is something that is spread, and it's hard to find out how it truly impacts the city of Homestead, those events. And so I know a lot of hotels make a killing, and the restaurants in the city of Miami Beach and Miami make a killing because everyone's staying up there because we have no hotels, and they drive down here, and then they have the event here in Homestead. But there's no way for us to see what is the true impact of those races and those events. But I know that this base does have an economic impact that directly impacts the city of Homestead, because there are the neighbors who rent our houses and eat in our restaurants and shop in our stores. They are our neighbors. And so I'd want to consider that. I want to make sure that we support our base 100% on this case, and I'm concerned with the concern that they have, and I wasn't sure, and that was going to be one of my questions, because we have a lot of unknowns in this discussion. And my one unknown is, what does the base feel about it, and how is it going to impact them? So I want to make sure that we don't make a decision that impacts them. And this decision right now, unless we work through this, is going to impact them. In the discussion, before we figure out if we're going to say yes or no, I'd like to add. I'd want to say that, and I know our chief and our team are top notch, and they are great, and they have and you've had some members participate in the event. What I learned about the officer and the Las Vegas department is that they run the show. They run the safety of the show. and it's not another city or another person or another organization. They run it. This person, this officer that did walk us through and talk to us and tell us everything, he is the point person with his team, and I would ask that somehow we would reach out to him, and I got his information, and that if this would happen, we would definitely need his expertise to help us in getting this event and making sure that we are safe. I would like for our police officers to kind of be a major part of this if it does happen. And we need the experienced organization or person to help us run this event. This is an event, it's not NASCAR, this is a totally different event. I would think that we would reach out to the city of Miami and its staff to truly get a better understanding of how they dealt with this. Again, this has come very quickly to us, and we understand why it's become quickly, and we understand that it's become a hot topic because everyone wants economical impact. The city of Miami would definitely, Miami Beach, I understand they want it. I actually, on the way up to this over here to Las Vegas, I actually sat next to a DJ that was going to play up here, and he was also a manager of hotel in Miami Beach. And he was saying, this event needs to be in Miami Beach because it's heads in the beds. And, as a business owner, they want those heads in the beds in Miami Beach. And so that was, it was strange that or what a coincidence that I would run into an individual that wears two hats, in this event. And so I understand that, everyone wants it, but, it's something that I don't think we have a full grasp of how it works. So again, I think somehow through staff, we should be reaching out to the city of Miami that has dealt with this over a period of time, other economic development organizations to see how, it was truly impacting, the communities and how they dealt with it. I made some notes here, so give me a second. Again, another issue is, again, seeing the magnitude of this operation. And yes, Ultra is not, it's half of what EDM is, but I could only assume, and I feel pretty, I feel pretty sure that they would want to have, again, like I said, because of the venue and the size, they would be able to get to that 100,000. And again, that was also mentioned in the email that the track sent to us, where they said they wanted, to have attendees from 30,000 to 100,000. I understand the base. I mean, the track, their last race, I think, was about 55,000 attendees. I am comfortable with 55,000 attendees and the track to kind of manage that. But this is a different event. In my opinion, it's like herding cats. And, when you think, one thing is race fans, and another thing is young individuals from the ages of 18 to about 25. And like the officer said, I'm just going to be very blunt about it. Half of them are on drugs. It's just part of the nature of what this event does, or it is. And so it's a pretty big event, pretty impressive. And again, our staff should be involved in making sure that if it happens, that it happens right. If we just give the track a thumbs up for 2 a.m. and say they'll handle it, and we're not aware of what happens or how it happens, I don't feel comfortable with that. Somehow we need to be involved in this more than, I don't, hey, 2 a.m. and we'll take, I don't feel comfortable with that. If something happens to any individual, someone dies or something tragic happens, I don't want them to come to me and says, why didn't you do your due diligence? Why didn't you make sure that so-and-so happened? And so, again, I saw this event firsthand, impressed beyond words.
Councilman Maldonado, we've got a couple other people here that would like to chime in.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I said we have a couple other council people that'd like to chime in and participate.
Yeah, no, I understand, but I have to say what I have to say because I have to be getting out here soon at the same time. So let me just get this out, and I'll finish your mine, and then you guys can finish up there. Again, we didn't have any meetings with any of our community meetings. We haven't had any meetings with our residents or community leaders or community organizations and get their sense of what's happening. So I would say that hopefully there's a way that we could have those meetings and have some talks in regards to that. And that's going to be it for me, and I yield.
Thank you, Councilman. Vice Mayor Burgess.
Thank you. Just a couple of points of clarification. As I reached out to, or somebody reached out to Ray Martinez, and Ray Martinez is a former police chief here in the Miami-Dade County area who now runs security solely for the Ultra festivals and has for many years. And according to Mr. Martinez, there's been one death in 21 years, and that was an individual who went to the hospital and died later on from a seizure. So I just wanted to put that information out there. You know, we've got great traffic people. Colonel Kennedy has run the race for many, many years. So traffic, I think, and with the turnpike being in the process of being done, it's supposed to be done this fall, I think that will improve things too for the egress and ingress of traffic for the racetrack, for the festival. Two things that I also wanted to put out there is a gentleman spoke that the city of Miami no longer wanted it, Miami Beach didn't want it. But that is not, the city of Miami is having a meeting tomorrow to try to lure these people back to them. And the city of Miami Beach is having one on Thursday. So as Councilman Maldonado alluded to, we need to have discussions. If we don't do it tonight, we may not have an opportunity to do it. So we've either got to vote yes or no tonight. And with that, I make a motion, if I may, Mayor, with some stipulations in it towards the racetrack. My motion is that the site plan would need to be okayed by the city manager. He must give his approval. Traffic and all of the traffic plans must go through Colonel Kennedy, and that the event pays for any and all traffic expenses. Ultra can go till 2 o'clock if and only if they indemnify the city of all of its responsibilities on its property and surrounding area if something was to happen somewhere. All insurances for a third party, because this is not covered in the contract, must be okayed and looked at by the city and approved by the city. All parties work on the dates to be the best for all stakeholders in the area, including hopefully working with the air base. And as I sat here tonight, I texted Colonel Piff and asked him, and he said that there is a possibility that they can work on dates. So that's a plus. And I would also like to put in there that the city is allowed to add a $2 ordinance ticket surcharge that must be incorporated into this plan as we move forward with all parties. And with that, I'll leave it.
All right, so that's your motion.
Yes, sir.
Do I have a second on that motion? Councilwoman Bailey seconds that motion. Now, you still have the floor. 'Cause I would like to complete.
That's fine. I just want to put some stuff out there.
Right. So we have a motion now for
discussion.
So any debate or any discussion on the motion?
Or any questions of what I read?
Councilman Roth. Yeah. Did you still want to speak? Okay. Yes. Go ahead then, Councilwoman Bailey. You're up.
I still believe that the positives outweigh the negative, and Vice Mayor, I think that was a very fair and clear motion. The two things that I wanted to speak on, two conditions that I felt were still that I was a little uneasy with, is you know, like we've mentioned, we all would like to see these festivals. We all want to be good neighbors. We want to help the track. We want to see you succeed. We want to, of course, have the base succeed. So to add to that, the stipulation as far as the first weekend be clear for these trainings that have already been scheduled. Um, that's really the last part that I was uneasy with. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Roth.
And including into that motion, if we may, the city of Miami had a sound level agreement with Ultra. And I think for the residents who are concerned about the sound, we need to protect them as well. And I'm reading it right here. I don't understand it, but it says 110 decibels measured 60 feet away from the stage. I don't know what that means. Al tried to give us a description of an airplane taking off. That's quite loud, but 60 feet away from the stage, I don't get that. So maybe we can figure that part out into it too. And there was very stiff penalties if they violated that noise agreement. I'm not sure who enforced it, but if they didn't turn it down within 5 minutes, they were fined $1,000. Huh?
Per minute.
Well, that was on overage times after the event, but this is per occurrence in each separate individual event. When they went back out, they said, turn it down, $1,000. Turn it down, $1,000. But I think that needs to be worked into this motion, that we are protecting the sound that will be traveling in whatever direction it's traveling. I like the fact that they're already thinking facing southeast or due east, and maybe even building a barrier wall behind the stage to keep the sound from traveling backwards. But I think that needs to be incorporated into this motion before I can support anything, because we got to protect the residents that are concerned about sound. And then with that, I'll rest. Thank you.
Okay, and clarify, or City Attorney, you're clear on what his request was on that condition added to the motion?
So I don't know what the proper decibel level is going to be, but I think the site plan plus the sound levels should at least be the same as or even more restrictive than what this agreement is. I don't have no idea what 100 decibels sounds like 60 feet away from the stage, so I can't make that judgment. So I'm assuming that because of the location of this event, there was a lot of residential around this area. There's a lot of shopping. There's a lot of stuff around this area, I would think. So this probably pretty restrictive. I don't know what to say for that. So if we could just maybe mimic what they've got, 110 decibels, 60 feet away from the stage, and penalties for exceeding that.
Okay, so can I have a motion to amend the motion that was on the table to stipulate that the sound, the decibels in there, so we know that everybody's in favor of that and we're moving forward on the motion as amended. So does anybody?
I second that motion.
So we have a second?
I second that.
Okay.
So we'll vote on, are we amending the motion, John's amendment?
Yeah, so we have a motion, we have a second. Now let's have some discussion, because I'd like to make one comment on that, and then we'll take the vote on the motion to amend.
Thank you.
The only thing I have questions about is you relate to the decibel levels from the stage. I mean, my biggest concern is the actual impact it has on the residents. So I mean, whether or not, I don't know what the decibel, as you're saying, I don't know if the decibel levels from the stage directly correlate into the sound carry to, say, the residence is, a mile away or half a mile away, or however close the closest residence is. So I don't know if we need to be that specific on the decibel. I don't know. I don't have an answer. Or is it more of a generalized making sure? Because again, this is I assume a 10-year proposal here. Then at that point, do we have some generalized language that just puts in there that we'll be able to, they'll take efforts to mitigate the sound as it affects the residents? I don't know the answer there, but I just wanted to have some discussion about, if we put some arbitrary numbers in there, are we going to accomplish the goal, or is it better to describe the goal we're trying to accomplish and then leave our tools available to address that as we see fit from year to year going forward?
I don't know that these are arbitrary numbers. They're in the contract already. I I just, as you don't, I don't know what it sounds like to stand in front of a stage that's at 110 decibels at 60 feet away. I don't know what that feels like or sounds like. Well, back in the 80s, I might have known what it felt like and sounded like, but today I don't know what that sounds like. So I just think we need to have something in there to protect the residents against the noise and the sound, the levels of the sound. I get it. I mean, this is a very, very challenging situation for us, but I always go back to we have to protect everybody that's involved. We've got to protect our residents. We got to protect our assets. And in this case, I think if we went forward without any of this, we wouldn't be doing any justice to anybody. Okay? So, however we work this out, there's got to be some sort of an agreeable sound level ordinance built into this agreement so that we can, protect.
Yeah, I concur. I'll support your motion. I just wanted to make sure, have the debate or discussion about, is this the best way, is there a better way? But I agree with you. Something needs to be in here, and so I'll support it in its form. Vice Mayor Burgess, you'd also asked to be recognized.
Can I chime in on that?
Yeah, hold on, Vice Mayor, and then I'll get you, Councilman Maldonado.
I would also like to say that perhaps one other thing that we could add, if for a level of comfort, is that both the police chief and Colonel Kennedy must be in agreement with the level of policing that are required or are asked for at the event, so that we make sure that our city officials are comfortable on that also. That's one thing that I left off. I didn't read when I was writing down my list. So if we could add, perhaps Matt,
Okay.
both, our chief and whomever he deems as the person of contact to be responsible for to oversee and to help make sure that the level of policing that is required is met.
Okay, so we have the motion and the second on Councilman Ross' amendment to your motion for noise ordinance. We've had some discussion. There's no more discussion, it looks like. Or Councilman Maldonado, you still had a discussion on the decibel level?
Yes.
Go ahead. You have the floor then.
Good. Thank you. I actually did some research on OSHA's. So OSHA, we all know that OSHA is a standardization for work safety, and from my understanding, their standard for noise within a shop or machinery, it's 90 decibels. And, at that, that's where hearing loss and damage happens. And so that's where you're supposed to have, ear covers or earplugs or, some type of safety for your ears. And that is OSHA standards, the standard for machinery. It's 90 decibels. I could tell you that while we were at the event, we did hit, I would say that, that 110 was there. I think, I believe I'm not, let me see. I don't recall the number, but again, I just wanted to interject that, the importance of the decibel level and the importance. If it's in the contract, the one that City of Miami has, that's what and what Councilman Ross is mentioning, that's why I seconded that, because of the importance of the sound. And let me tell you, it is loud and it's in your chest. And so at 110, you're going to feel it really, really, really hard in your chest if you're a concert goer. And so we need to protect them and, of course, the residents as well.
Okay. Thank you, Councilman Maldonado. No other discussion on that amendment to the...
Mayor Shelley?
Is that Councilman Guzman?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, Councilman Guzman, you have a comment on the decibel level issue?
Hello? Can you hear me? Say that again, Mayor Shelley?
Yeah, is it Councilman Guzman, if you're looking to be recognized on the decibel level issue or another issue?
On another issue, are we still on the decimal level issue?
Yeah, we're still on the decibel level issue. If there's no other discussion on that specific issue, we're going to take a vote on that. Then we've got to vote potentially or look for a second on Council or Vice Mayor Burgess's amendment to his own motion, and then we'll have a general discussion.
Okay.
Okay. All right, no additional discussion on the decibel level issue. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Guzman,
No.
Councilman Maldonado,
On the second the amendment, yes.
Councilwoman Bailey? Councilman Roth?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Burgess? Mayor Shelley?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, now we have a, Vice Mayor Burgess had requested an amendment to his original motion to now, instead of having the traffic approved through the Colonel Kennedy, but also now have traffic and police force or policing levels approved through Colonel Kennedy or Homestead Police Department. Is that accurate? Okay, and the chief. Okay. Do I have a second on that?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that? I wasn't sure on that.
Go ahead, Vice Mayor Burgess. Let me turn you on. Go ahead.
Yes, when I went down my list for my original motion, I skipped over one of my things, and that is that our police chief and his designee would have the final say-so on the policing levels that they think are necessary for this event to be covered and keep all parties safe. So I need to add that into my original motion. That's why it's coming up this way.
I'll second that, and can I have some saying on that as well?
So that was a second?
Yes.
Yes, with comment.
Okay, go ahead, comment.
So I agree with what he's saying in regards to that, and the reason why I'm saying that, when I spoke to the officer in charge of this event, their relationship with whatever they needed with staff, the EDM was to pay for it basically, and so if they needed 1,000 people to do the job.
Councilman, hold tight. We just lost our physical quorum, so the meeting is on pause. You guys need to take a. All right, we're going to take a. Sorry, Councilman Maldonado. We're going to take a 3-minute recess real quick, and then we'll reconvene.
Okay.
Things got quiet. I was like, what happened?
She didn't go home. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we're back in. We're going to call the meeting back in order. We have our quorum back. Councilman Maldonado, you had the floor. You were interrupted. Go ahead and finish your comments.
Oh, give me 1 second. Okay, going back to Vice Mayor's amendment, and where I was discussing the fact that the police officer, and forgive me, I don't recall his name at the moment, but he was very frank and very real with the concert goer, EDM. Again, the difference is that they had the relationship directly with the EDM group, as opposed to we have to work kind of through with the track. But that's something that the track is going to have to let them know this is how it works. Matter of fact, officer, his name was Nick Nogas, which is a weird last name, but nonetheless, that is it. Officer Nogas mentioned that, listen, my main job is to keep these people safe, and if I need more officers to keep them safe, then I would give them the bill, and they're going to take care of it, because that is our agreement. And so, I hear what Vice Mayor is asking for, and I think that's the correct ask, because we cannot allow them to try to cap, and for them to save money, and we need to take in consideration the safety of the goers there. So, like you said, if he needed officers, if he needed staff, he would request it and then send the bill for it, and make sure that happened. So that's why I seconded that motion.
Thank you. Councilman Roth, is this on the amendment or is this on another issue? Okay. Any other discussion on Vice Mayor Burgess's amendment to his original motion? Seeing none.
Yes. Yes.
Is this you,
I'd like,
Councilman Guzman?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Councilman Guzman, on the
if
Vice
you
Mayor's
would,
amendment to his own motion.
I want to know what the amendments were, because I didn't hear all of them.
This amendment is to allow the approval of the police force or the police leveling being used, as well as the traffic patterns or traffic management and control to be approved by and dictated kind of by the Homestead Police Department, by the Chief of Police. Is that correct, Vice Mayor? So that's the amendment to the original motion. That's all we're voting on. That'll be all that we voted on this particular time.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
You're welcome. Seeing no additional comments, we have a motion by the Vice Mayor. We have a second by Councilman Maldonado. Roll call, Madam Clerk, on the amendment to the motion.
Councilman Ross? Yes. Councilman Maldonado?
Yes.
Councilwoman Bailey? Councilman Guzman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Burgess?
Yes.
Mayor Shelley?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Okay, so now we have our motions. Our amendments are all squared away, right? Correct?
No, I actually wanted to add an amendment myself.
Say what?
I said I wanted to add an amendment myself.
Okay, hold on. We're not to there yet. We've got Councilman Guzman next, then Councilman Roth, then I'll get to you, Councilman Maldonado. I just wanted to make sure we've addressed all current pending motions or amendments to motions, correct? City Attorney? All amendments have been addressed. Okay. Councilman Guzman, you're recognized now for additional comment or discussion.
Okay, based on the information before us, we are not in a position to make a decision on this tonight. We're making a decision with someone pressuring us to make a decision, and it's always a formula for failure. If the terms are not on our terms, with ample time to analyze and to have the necessary discussions before we make a decision, I don't think we should make that decision tonight. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Councilman Guzman. Councilman Roth.
Yeah, the surcharge. Are we locking that in for 10 years, or is there room to increase that if their sales increase? Are there different levels as set out in the agreement with the City of Miami, or is it just a flat surtax?
Yeah, Vice Mayor Burgess, it's your motion, so would you like to clarify your intent?
Sure. The issue that we have, as I look at this, is that the City of Miami dealt directly with the Ultra Festival, so they could dictate a little more. We are asking the Speedway, through an ordinance that we will have to pass, to go to Ultra and say, look, we need this to happen this way. I would like to see an escalating deal, of course, but as of right now, we don't even have an ordinance to work on this. So I'm just trying to put something out there to start today and move us forward, and then work from there, because, you know, right now, we don't even have and Mr. Attorney, if you could
I get
give
that.
a little clarification.
So, but why put a $2 cap on it now then? Why don't we just put a ticker, you know, a ticket surcharge in the mix without an amount?
All right, well, then we can do the surcharge. I don't know how we would write a ordinance that does that. You have to be specific.
Or cap it at $5, but don't cap it at 2.
Well, I think for the purposes of the discussion, I'd like to streamline this a little bit. So the City of Miami has an ordinance on its books because for certain facilities, City of Miami owned facilities, and when they deal directly with operators who put on events, then under their ordinance, those event holders are required to levy a certain surcharge. And to your point, it is on an escalating scale depending on the cost of the ticket. What we're asking for here is, you know, in order to sort of compensate for the city for any costs that it may incur, or they're coming with an ask to ask them to pass this obligation through, because if I heard Mr. Garcia earlier correctly, they don't have any interest in the gate at all. Right? Did I hear that correctly? So what we're asking them for is to, we're going to condition our approval based on them basically putting something in their contract with the third-party operator that would require the third-party operator to levy this surcharge to be passed through to the city. If you know, I've heard $2 so far. If you know what the amount is, or you'd like to see, a larger amount or a different amount, I think we need to settle on that. The motion right now is for $2. If someone wants to amend that, then we'll have to go through that process. But realize that what we're asking is for them to pass this obligation through to their operator. And I think the more complicated we make it, the larger an ask that may be. So however you want to do it, I mean, I defer to Mr. Garcia as to what he thinks is practical. But I just want you to keep that in mind because that is sort of the ask here.
Yeah, but what's practical is you have no offense to anybody, you have a promoter coming in here who's making millions of dollars on a show. You have a venue who's collecting additional revenues, and I don't see where the city benefits from that financially. That's my biggest problem. I like John's way of thinking. Yes, we need something. We need something. When the races are at NASCAR, or we have these festivals, there's wear and tear on the infrastructure as well, and we're not getting compensated in any way for that stuff. So I don't know how we work it out as far as the surcharge goes. If $2 is the max, maybe there's an increase every year, but that's going to have to go, as I think I'm hearing you, is citywide, not just for the track. I mean, it shouldn't be specifically for them, but any operator or anybody or any promoter that comes into the city, depending on the size of the venue, the size of the event, on and on, should have some ability to compensate the city in just some way. That's all I'm asking for. I mean, I'm good with almost everything, but I think that we have to, I don't even know what that $2 surcharge is going to mean to the city. Is it $50? Is it $100? Is it $10,000? I don't know. How many tickets did they sell last year? What tickets is it going to be based on? Is it just based on a general admission ticket? Is it based on a VIP ticket? I don't know. So,
Can I chime in on that, Councilman Ross?
Hold on, Councilman Maldonado. Councilman Ross still has the floor, and then Councilwoman Bailey's got next.
I'll reserve for now. Okay. Let them talk. But
It's on Ross' item. Just want to mention that.
Excuse me, Councilman Maldonado?
It's on Ross's item that he's discussing. That's why I said that.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, Councilwoman Bailey, I think, is as well. Councilwoman Bailey.
Thank you. Instead, we mentioned ticket prices averaging $100, and we talked about $2. So instead of worrying about it increasing yearly, why don't we make it a percentage of each ticket? That way, with tickets increasing each year, if we say 2%, that's $2 on a $100 ticket.
All right. Right. Well, that's where, yeah, so let's, yeah, all right, hold on. Councilwoman Bailey has the floor still. Are you? Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Okay, Councilwoman Bailey, and then I'll get to Guy Smurr next, and Councilman Maldonado also. But I do concur that I think that if we start trying to negotiate all of that right now, it'd be very difficult to do. Plus, we've got to figure out what ultimately is going to be willing to agree to, or whatever our ordinance is. So I think, maybe if you wanted to modify the flat $2 surcharge to a minimum of $2 surcharge, that gives you a little bit of flexibility going forward. But we know at least we have a floor, because what I don't want to do also is leave it open-ended and then have at the end of the day we end up with a 25-cent surcharge, that gets added on the top. So I think we should at least have a floor, if you want to call that a minimum surcharge, that at least gets us $2, and then that gives us the ability to maybe have some further discussions or negotiations in the future about something more. So that would be, Vice Mayor Burgess, do you have any? Councilman Maldonado on the surcharge discussion.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Let me tell you guys something. I was at the event, and this promoter makes a killing. The $400 tickets is just your basic tickets. They have VIP sections throughout each stage, and there were big sections. So let's not lose the opportunity as, again, they're winning, they're making money, this is America, I'm okay with that. The track will be able to benefit, they're winning, and we need to be winners as well. So do not be shy about this, where these guys, and that's tickets. We're not talking about food, we're not talking about pods and everything else. We won't get none of that other money, but only on ticket sales. So these promoters make money on everything, shirts, you name it, they're selling it, they're making money off of it. We won't be able to get a penny from those, fine, but if we could do at least the tickets, they make a killing. Again, so I just want to put that information out there. I've seen it firsthand. You have people flying from all over the world coming to these events, and they're multi-millionaire kids, at these and the VIPs, they weren't old folks, for all young people, and it was full. And so those VIP tickets, from my understanding, were from $600 up to $1,200. And so we have your base tickets and you have your VIP tickets that happen. So let's not short ourselves in this process here. And again, to Councilman Guzman's the same, it's premature to be making all these decisions, but I'm just kind of rolling with it as it comes. And so that's what I wanted to say. For me, the floor would be a $5 flat, or something to that nature, because there are levels of ticketing that they have. So that's where I was going to go with mine, but go ahead.
Thank you, Councilman Maldonado. Any additional comments or questions? Vice Mayor?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Hold on. Vice Mayor Burgess, then I'll get to you, Councilman Guzman.
If we were dealing directly with the Ultra Festival, then we would have a lot more power to negotiate. I agree with that. But we are not dealing directly with them, unfortunately. So therefore, we've got to start somewhere that is reasonable, palatable, and work our way from there. I like what the mayor said, make $2 the basement with it being able to slide up. But you've got to start somewhere the first year, and to go in there and hit them with something big when we're trying to get a deal done that isn't done yet may be the last straw, or it could be something that deters them from coming here. That's why I came up with a $2 flat fee, which potentially brings us $300,000 if they do 50,000 people a day as projected for the city, right there. Plus whatever other economic benefits come from these people visiting and staying here. So that's why I came up with that. And if we had been if Ultra was standing at the podium tonight and we were negotiating with them, we could say $10, $12 a ticket. But unfortunately, we're a third party to the contract. So we don't have the leverage to go in there and tell them we want $12 a ticket or 10% or 20% or whatever it is. So that's why I came up with what I thought was a palatable, easy number to get us at least in the door and get going. Thank you.
Perfect. Councilman Roth.
I'd like to say I agree with that. I'm comfortable with a $2 minimum and having the scale rise up as we can figure out how to make this whole thing work out. Because the whole object is to try to make everyone happy. As Councilman Maldonado said, it needs to be a win-win-win for everybody. Win for the track, win for the city, win for our residents. And I think that what we've done here tonight demonstrates that we've done that now. We've protected it. We've built some things into it. And I'm ready to vote.
And is that do we need a motion, City Attorney, to amend the original motion to now say minimum $2 surcharge instead of $2 flat surcharge, or can we just?
Well, I'd like a little clarification on the surcharge piece, just because the way I see this working is we'll take this direction, staff will draft the letter that basically provides this waiver for 2 a.m. and with the attached stipulations. So when you say a minimum of, do you want to do like in the alternative? Because I don't know how you increase it from $2. I just want the direction to staff to be clear so they know what they should be conditioning this on. So.
Right. So
I'd like to.
I think the intention of my recommendation on it was that Because of the unknowns here, because of trying to be fair, but trying to be in line with what other municipalities or counties may charge, for these types of events, and giving us some flexibility that actually by fuzzing and making it a little bit more fuzzy by saying a minimum of $2 would give all parties a little bit of debatable negotiation room in the future if we needed to. But at least we know we're going to get $2 surcharge. So we have a $2 floor, and we've built in some unclarity to allow us to potentially have some future discussions as this comes back to us. So it gives us a flexibility, but also, so that's the intent.
Okay.
So with that, do I need a motion to make the word minimum in there, or can we all just accept the fact that we've had the debate and discussion about it?
I didn't hear any opposition. Is that your consensus?
All right, so let's do it that way. Any opposition to making it a minimum $2 surcharge?
No.
Okay, so
That's the
seeing none,
consensus?
it's been now, modifies the motion. Was someone on the phone, was it Councilman Guzman or Councilman Maldonado that had wanted to be recognized for something?
Yes, it's regarding the surcharge.
Okay, go ahead,
Because-
Councilman Guzman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When Ultra sells tickets, they sell tickets for the 3 days for a purchase of that one ticket. So if we're considering a surcharge, we ought to base it to the charge of the ticket itself and let that be on a rising scale. Because what will happen is instead of it being 50,000 tickets per each day and us making 300,000, we would actually be only making $100,000 because that person has already purchased that ticket, which is why I'm saying that all of this is way too premature for us to be making a decision tonight. So if we're going to consider the surcharge, whatever the price of the ticket is, if it's up to $100, $2. Anything 100 to 300, it goes up from there. And then the VIP pays their, pro rata share of whatever that surcharge is going to be, up to a maximum of $12. That's the way the city of Miami does it. If it works, if it seems to be working for them, why wouldn't we be using the same scale? We're shooting ourselves in the foot by just saying we're doing a $2 surcharge. We don't have enough information. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. And I think part of our debate we just had about having this minimum language added to the $2 surcharge is it's going to give us the ability to have some future discussions, just like you're asking. But we know at a minimum we've locked in $2, but we can have some further discussion, and maybe we find that number goes up through city staff, through the Speedway, and through Ultra. So I think it's given us the flexibility we need to move forward, but at the same time, hopefully maximize the benefits to the city. Vice Mayor Burgess.
Thank you. Councilman Guzman does bring up a valid point. So I guess the language that he is inferring to is that it would be $2 per day. So if somebody does buy a $3 ticket, a 3-day ticket, we would get $2 per day from them. If they purchase a two-day ticket, they have to pay on the 2-day ticket. So that would be how we would be guaranteed if we can work that out somehow with them. So if somebody buys a $3,
Mr. Vice Mayor?
excuse me, somebody buys a 3-day ticket, they've got to pay $2 per day. So our language should say then a $2 surcharge per day per ticket. Would that be?
That's what we'll condition it on.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, perfect. Let's, I've got a blank board. I'm just asking to be recognized at the moment. So let's use this moment to recap where we are with the motion. So we all know what we have, what's positioned before us, and then we can have any further debate on that particular motion or any other discussion, and then potentially take a vote. So, City Manager.
Okay. I believe that the motion includes, the direction will be for the city manager to write a letter pursuant to the terms of the discretion given under the current agreement.
Speaking to the mic, there you go.
That the city manager write a letter pursuant to his discretion under the current agreement to extend the ultra hours to 2 a.m. with these stipulations. The site plan has to be approved by the city manager. The traffic and all traffic plans have to be okayed by PD, and any traffic plan costs would be paid for by the Speedway. The city would be indemnified for anything that happens during the event. All insurances requested by the city will be gotten by them, and PD levels have to be approved by the police department. It has to be the best dates for all parties, including the base. It can't interfere with their training dates. And there'll be a surcharge, $2 per day per ticket, minimum, open for future discussions. And the City of Miami's decibel level provision will be included in the letter.
Does that accurately reflect what everybody's memory of the conditions were in the motion? Okay, Councilman Roth.
I'm sorry.
Hold on, let me.
I want to clarify just a couple of points related to the Ultra event. As you know, before we
Go
move
ahead.
to a
Yeah,
vote,
go ahead, City Attorney. You have the floor.
The Ultra is currently a 3-day festival. They proposed camping the day before and the day after. Would it be the will of the council that if Ultra wanted to expand to 5 or 6 days, that they come back and ask the council approval, or do you want to allow Ultra sort of in the future, since we are talking about several years out? Are we holding them to the 3-day limit for the festival? Is that what we're granting authorization for?
Yeah, the application or the request came in as a 3-day Friday through Sunday.
So I just want to make sure that it's we're talking about 3 days,
So
and that's
let's,
what Ultra is.
Is that everyone's understanding here, that we are dealing with right now authorization in this motion for a 3-day festival, Friday through Sunday?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
Okay, so I think, yes, you have consensus there.
For the sake of the manager's letter, I just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Okay, that was all at this time. Okay, Councilman Roth, you now have the floor.
Thank you. This may not be necessary now, but
Harmon Avenue, Paradise Road, Wayne Newton Boulevard, Paradise.
requirements by our police department, but I know that Al had mentioned that they would have on-site medical facilities. Do we need to require that, or is that just going to be something that's automatic?
Would that counts, City Manager?
Just for the public safety purposes of having on-site medical. I know Councilman Maldonado described some in-depth stuff, and I don't need to get into all that stuff, but I'm sure that I have the utmost confidence that you guys will do everything you can to protect the humans and protect human life and the participants at the event. I'm just asking, should it be included into this language in this motion? We talked about the police already being a part of it. We talked about a bunch of different things, but I'm satisfied if we don't need to.
I think we could, and now let's attract respond here or make a comment. I mean, I think if we just had something that says adequate medical facilities broadly enough would be okay. Would that be sufficient, or do you want to?
Yeah, and I think the county's going to have some say with that too.
Right.
So the fire department's going to want to say, okay, you're going to have X amount of people. This is what you're going to need out there for your event. So just to cover all the public safety issues, that's all I'm looking for right
if
now.
you want to respond or have a comment on that.
Absolutely. Thank you for recognizing that, Councilman Roth. That's a standard operating procedure for us. So there's discussion about the police approving the traffic patterns and the level of coverage, and Miami-Dade Fire Rescue giving input and ultimately deciding what's appropriate for the events we have is standard procedure for all of our events. So we have no problem with that, and we work very well with the police, but ultimately Chief Roll and his team are the final say on how and when the event is protected.
Okay, I'm good with that.
Perfect. So yeah, it's up to you, Councilman Roth, if you want to have any language specific in there, if you think we're comfortable.
Nope.
Okay, so we're comfortable. No additional conditions as it relates to that. Did you have a comment, City Manager?
I
got a question real quick.
Hold on one second.
So essentially, it's included in the PD oversight of the entire public safety plan.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, perfect. Was that you, Councilman Maldonado?
Yes.
Go ahead. You have the floor.
With this vote, did they come back before us? Is this a final vote, or is this a second read or anything of that effect, Matt?
Oh, yes, I believe this is because we're given direction. There's not necessarily a vote tonight per se, although we will take a vote, but it's to give direction to the manager to go ahead and issue the letter, correct? So, City Attorney, this is kind of a...
Yeah, I think once the direction is issued to the city manager, then this isn't an item that would come back to you guys about it.
Correct, yeah, so this will be...
I didn't hear that clear. Matt, please speak in the mic.
Sorry, Councilman. This is to give direction to the city manager, and once that direction is given, I think the manager will take action based on that direction. So I don't see this coming back to the council. This would be your one vote on this particular item.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor Burgess.
I'd like to call the vote, Mayor.
Go for it.
Perfect. Any additional, just want to make sure we've all flushed it out here if we're going to make this vote. Any additional questions, comments, discussion on this item? We have a motion. It's been read. We're all understanding. We're all in agreement with the motion. I do want to make one comment myself and just state that, I was, a little uncomfortable with the lack of information as well that we have here in front of us as far as making this decision. I think that we've been able to put together here tonight enough safeguards and enough flexibility that we can make sure that even without the information at this moment in time, the information will be given to us and decisions will be made by competent parties and educated parties to make sure that at the end of the day, all of our concerns should hopefully be met, and as it relates to traffic and noise, monetary and other. And so I'm comfortable at this point with the conditions, and I do commend the council for, I think, working very hard to put together as many safeguards as possible.
If I could, Mayor, just not an amendment or anything like that, but as the track is working forward, could they please make sure that they reach out to us and let us know where things stand, and if any questions, concerns, or whatever, that way we can go back and forth and nobody's caught off guard or any of that too. So thank you.
All right, with that, then roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Bailey? Councilman Roth? Yes. Councilman Maldonado?
No.
Councilman Guzman?
No.
Vice Mayor Burgess?
Yes.
Mayor Shelley?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Any additional comments from council? Not, do I have a motion to adjourn? Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. We are adjourned.